3 weeks ago, Arya Vale was humiliated in front of all the most important people in her life. Her boyfriend of 3 years chose her younger sister at a family dinner without a moment's hesitation. But tonight, at the Whitmore Gala, the woman they had buried walked down the stairs beside the ruthless billionaire Luca Devereux, and every eye in the room stopped. Marcus watched her from across the hall, stunned to realize the broken woman he had once cast aside no longer looked so distressed. And when Arya looked straight into her sister's eyes and continued walking without a word, the power dynamics shifted forever. Follow this story to the very end. Like and leave a comment about where you're watching from so I know how far my story has progressed. The champagne tasted like metal in Arya's mouth, but she forced herself to swallow it anyway. 3 weeks. It had been 3 weeks since the dinner that destroyed her life, and somehow she was still breathing, still moving through days that felt like wading through broken glass. She stood in her cramped apartment bathroom, staring at her reflection under the fluorescent light that made her skin look corpse pale and hollow. Dark circles carved shadows beneath her eyes. Her collarbones jutted out sharper than they should have. She hadn't been eating right, hadn't been sleeping, hadn't been anything except a ghost wearing her own face. The dress hung on the back of the bathroom door, midnight blue, sleek as a knife, expensive as hell. It had arrived that morning with no note, just a card with 2 words in angular handwriting. Wear this. El Luca Devereux. She barely knew the man. They'd met exactly twice before, once at a gallery opening where he'd bought one of her photographs without speaking to her, and once at a charity auction where he'd nodded at her across a crowded room like he was filing her away in some mental catalog. He was the kind of man people whispered about in the same breath they used for natural disasters. Ruthless. Untouchable. The type who bought companies the way normal people bought coffee, then gutted them before lunch. And 3 days ago, he'd called her. Not texted. Called. His voice had been smooth and cold as winter water. I have a proposition for you, Miss Vale. The Whitmore Gala is in 3 days. You'll attend as my guest. Wear something that makes them remember you existed before they forgot. She should have said no, should have hung up, should have blocked the number and pretended the whole conversation never happened. Instead, she'd said, "What time should I be ready?" Because the truth was, she had nothing left to lose. Marcus had taken everything, her dignity, her family, her sense of self-worth, and left her hollowed out like a burnt building. Going to the gala with Luca Devereux might be insane, might be reckless, might be the stupidest decision she'd ever make. But at least it was a decision. At least it was movement. At least it was something other than lying in bed staring at the ceiling while her phone buzzed with pitying messages from people who used to be her friends. Arya pulled the dress off its hanger. The fabric whispered against her skin as she stepped into it, cool and sleek and foreign. She'd lived in jeans and oversized sweaters for 3 weeks, and the sensation of silk against her body felt like wearing armor made of ice. She zipped it up, hands shaking slightly, and looked at herself again. Different. She looked different. Not better, not healed, but different, sharper, harder, like something that had been broken and badly welded back together. Her phone buzzed. A text from Luca's driver. Downstairs in 5 minutes. She grabbed her clutch, shoved her phone and lipstick inside, and walked out of the bathroom before she could change her mind. Her heels clicked against the hardwood floor of her apartment. The apartment she'd have to leave next month because she couldn't afford it anymore, not after she'd quit her job at the marketing firm where everyone had looked at her with those awful, pitying eyes. The elevator ride down felt like falling. Her stomach churned, her palms were sweating. This was insane. This was absolutely insane. What was she even doing? She didn't belong at the Whitmore Gala. That event was for people like Marcus, people like her sister Caroline, people who moved through the world like they owned it, people like Luca Devereux. The lobby doors opened, and there it was. A black town car that probably cost more than her yearly rent, idling at the curb like a predator waiting to strike. The driver opened the back door without a word, and Arya slid inside. Luca was already there. He sat in the far corner of the back seat, one leg crossed over the other, wearing a tuxedo that fit him like it had been grown rather than tailored. His face was all sharp angles and cold calculation, his dark hair swept back, his gray eyes assessing her with the clinical precision of a surgeon deciding where to cut. "Miss Vale," he said. His voice was quiet, controlled. "You look like you're about to be sick." "I might be," Arya said. Her voice came out rougher than she intended. "This is insane. I shouldn't be here. I should be..." Where? Luca interrupted. At home? Hiding? Waiting for the humiliation to fade? He leaned forward slightly, and she caught the scent of expensive cologne and something darker, something that smelled like power. It won't fade, Miss Vale. Not on its own. Humiliation doesn't evaporate, it calcifies. It becomes the thing people remember about you forever, unless you give them something else to remember instead. Arya's throat tightened. And what exactly am I supposed to give them? Yourself, Luca said simply, but not the version they buried, the version they're afraid of. The car pulled away from the curb, gliding through the city streets like a shark through dark water. Arya pressed her palms against her thighs, trying to steady her breathing. Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. I know enough. Luca's gaze didn't waver. I know Marcus Hale is a coward who mistakes weakness for loyalty. I know your sister's the type of woman who takes things because she can, not because she wants them. I know your family watched it happen and did nothing. And I know you're the kind of person who photographs other people's lives because you're too afraid to live your own. The words hit like bullets. Arya's jaw clenched. You don't know anything about me. Then prove me wrong. Luca sat back, adjusting his cufflinks with the casual precision of a man who'd never doubted himself in his life. Tonight, you walk into that ballroom beside me. You let them see you. You let Marcus see you. You let your sister see you. And you don't flinch. You don't apologize. You don't give them the satisfaction of knowing they broke you. I don't know how to do that, Arya whispered. Yes, you do. Luca's voice was steel. You've been doing it for 3 weeks. You just haven't had an audience yet. The drive to the Whitmore estate took 20 minutes that felt like 20 seconds. Arya watched the city blur past the tinted windows, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might crack a rib. She wanted to tell the driver to turn around. She wanted to open the door and throw herself out onto the pavement. She wanted to disappear. But she didn't. Because Luca was right about one thing. She had nothing left to lose. The car pulled up to the entrance, and suddenly there were lights everywhere. Camera flashes, photographers shouting questions, a red carpet stretching up marble steps toward massive doors that looked like the entrance to a cathedral. Arya's breath caught. Remember, Luca said quietly, his hand on the door handle. You're not here to apologize. You're not here to explain. You're here to remind them you exist. The door opened. The noise hit first. Voices, camera shutters, music bleeding out from inside the estate. Then the light, bright and blinding. Luca stepped out first, moving with the smooth confidence of a man who'd done this 1,000 times. Then he turned back, offering his hand. Arya looked at it, looked at him. Looked at the crowd of photographers and socialites and people who'd spent 3 weeks whispering about her humiliation. She took his hand. The moment her heels touched the red carpet, the cameras exploded. Questions flew from every direction, but Luca didn't pause, didn't acknowledge any of them. He simply walked forward with Arya beside him, his hand resting lightly at the small of her back, guiding her up the steps. Don't look at them, Luca murmured. Look through them. Arya lifted her chin, straightened her spine. Let the camera flashes wash over her like rain. She didn't smile, didn't pose, just walked, one foot in front of the other, until they reached the massive doors and stepped inside. The ballroom was obscene. Crystal chandeliers the size of cars hung from vaulted ceilings. White marble floors gleamed like ice. Women in gowns that cost more than Arya's car drifted past like exotic birds, their jewelry catching the light, their laughter high and sharp as broken glass. Men in tuxedos clustered in small groups, holding drinks that probably cost $100 each, conducting business deals disguised as small talk. And then Arya saw him. Marcus. He was standing near the far wall, champagne flute in hand, laughing at something someone had said. He looked exactly the same, tall, handsome in that easy, effortless way that had first drawn her to him, his blonde hair perfectly styled, his smile wide and careless. He looked like a man who'd never suffered a day in his life. He looked like a stranger. Caroline was beside him. Of course she was. Arya's younger sister, beautiful and sharp and always taking up space like she was entitled to it. She wore red, a color Arya had never been able to pull off, and she was touching Marcus's arm, laughing at whatever he'd just said, playing the role of adoring girlfriend like she'd been born for it. Arya's stomach twisted. Her hands went cold. Breathe, Luca said quietly. He hadn't looked at Marcus, hadn't acknowledged him at all. You're not here for him. You're here for you. But before Arya could respond, Marcus looked up. Their eyes met across the ballroom. She watched the recognition hit him, watched his smile falter, watched his gaze drop to Luca's hand at her back, then snap back to her face. His expression shifted through confusion, shock, something that might have been guilt, and then hardened into something uglier. Caroline noticed a second later. Her eyes widened, her mouth opened slightly, like she wanted to say something but couldn't figure out what. Arya didn't look away, didn't flinch, didn't give them anything except a long, steady stare that said everything she couldn't put into words. Then she turned her back on both of them and let Luca guide her deeper into the ballroom. Well done, Luca murmured. Arya's hands were shaking so badly she had to clench them into fists. I think I'm going to be sick. You're not. Luca plucked 2 champagne flutes off a passing tray and handed her one. Drink, slowly, and keep your head up. She drank. The champagne tasted better here, or maybe that was just because she was too numb to taste anything at all. Around them, conversations paused and restarted. People stared, whispered. Arya could feel their eyes on her like insects crawling across her skin. They're talking about me, she said. Good. Luca's expression didn't change. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them scramble to rewrite the narrative they built about you. I don't know how to do this, Arya said. Her voice cracked slightly. I don't know how to be this person. You don't have to know. Luca's gray eyes met hers, and for the first time since she'd met him, she saw something other than cold calculation, something that looked almost like understanding. You just have to survive the next 2 hours. Can you do that? Arya thought about the last 3 weeks. The sleepless nights, the unanswered calls, the pitying looks from people who used to respect her. The way her mother had said, maybe this is for the best, dear. Marcus and Caroline seemed so happy together. She thought about every moment she'd wanted to disappear, and she realized she was still here, still standing, still breathing. Yes, she said. Luca almost smiled. Then that's enough. The next hour passed in a blur. Luca moved through the ballroom like he owned it, and maybe he did. Arya had heard rumors that the Whitmore estate was mortgaged to one of his holding companies. People parted for him automatically, their conversations dying as he approached, then resuming in hushed tones after he passed. He introduced Arya to people whose names she recognized from magazines: a tech mogul, a film producer, a woman who owned half the art galleries in the city. And every single one of them looked at her like she mattered. It was disorienting, surreal. For 3 years, she'd attended events like this as Marcus's girlfriend, and people had looked through her like she was wallpaper. Now, beside Luca, they saw her. Actually saw her. You're a photographer, I understand, the gallery owner said. Her name was Elaine Cortez, and she had silver hair and eyes like a raptor. Luca mentioned your work is exceptional. Arya blinked. He did? Don't sound so surprised, Miss Vale. Elaine's smile was sharp. Luca doesn't waste words on mediocrity. I'd like to see your portfolio. Call my office Monday. She handed Arya a business card and walked away before Arya could respond. Did that just happen? Arya asked. Yes, Luca said. Did you plan that? Yes. Arya stared at him. Why? Luca's expression was unreadable. Because your work deserves to be seen, and because watching Marcus Hale realize what he threw away is going to be deeply satisfying. Arya didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You're using me for revenge. No, Luca said quietly. I'm giving you the tools to destroy him yourself. There's a difference. Before Arya could respond, a voice cut through the noise like a blade. Arya. She turned. Marcus was walking toward them, weaving through the crowd with Caroline trailing behind him. His face was flushed, his jaw tight. He looked angry. No, not angry, desperate. Arya, I need to talk to you, Marcus said. He didn't even look at Luca. Alone. No, Arya heard herself say. Marcus stopped like he'd walked into a wall. What? I said no. Her voice was steadier than she expected. We don't have anything to talk about. Are you serious right now? Marcus's voice rose slightly. A few people nearby turned to stare. After 3 years together, you're just going to… what? Pretend I don't exist? I'm not pretending anything, Arya said. You made your choice. I'm making mine. Marcus's eyes darted to Luca, then back to her. You're here with him? Luca fucking Devereux? Do you have any idea what people are saying about you? I imagine they're saying the same things they said 3 weeks ago, Arya said. The difference is, tonight, I don't care. Caroline finally spoke up, her voice high and strained. Arya, please, can we just talk? As a family? Arya looked at her sister, really looked at her. Caroline's red dress was perfect. Her makeup was flawless. She looked like someone who'd never made a mistake in her life, never hurt anyone, never stolen something that didn't belong to her. She looked like a liar. We're not a family, Caroline, Arya said quietly. We stopped being a family the night you decided Marcus was more important than I was. Caroline's face crumpled. I didn't mean... Yes, you did. Arya's voice was soft, almost gentle. You meant every second of it. So did Marcus. And that's fine. You wanted him? You have him. I hope it was worth it. She turned away before Caroline could respond, before Marcus could say whatever desperate, pathetic thing was building behind his eyes. Luca's hand found the small of her back again, steady and grounding. Let's go, he said. They walked away. Arya could feel Marcus and Caroline staring after them, could feel the eyes of everyone in the ballroom tracking their exit. Her heart was pounding so hard she thought she might pass out. But she didn't look back. They made it to the terrace before Arya's legs gave out. She grabbed the stone railing, gasping for air, her entire body shaking like she'd just run a marathon. Luca stood beside her, silent and still, waiting. I did it, Arya whispered. I actually did it. You did. I don't feel better. Her voice cracked. Why don't I feel better? Because healing isn't a single moment, Luca said. It's 1,000 small moments, stacked on top of each other until one day you realize you're no longer carrying the weight. Arya looked at him. Really looked at him for the first time. He wasn't looking at her. He was staring out at the dark gardens beyond the terrace, his profile sharp and cold as carved marble. But there was something in his eyes, something distant and haunted that she recognized because she'd seen it in her own reflection every morning for 3 weeks. Someone hurt you, she said. It wasn't a question. Luca's jaw tightened. Yes. What happened? For a long moment he didn't answer, then, her name was Victoria. We were engaged. 2 weeks before the wedding, she left me for my business partner. They took $20 million and disappeared to Monaco. He said it like he was reciting a grocery list. I haven't seen either of them since. Arya's breath caught. I'm sorry. Don't be. Luca finally looked at her, and his eyes were cold as winter. I'm not. She taught me the most valuable lesson I've ever learned. Never trust anyone who says they love you. Trust what they do when no one's watching. That's a lonely way to live, Arya said softly. It's a safe way to live, Luca corrected. There's a difference. They stood there in silence, two broken people pretending to be whole, while music and laughter drifted out from the ballroom behind them. Arya thought about Marcus's face when she'd walked away, thought about Caroline's expression, thought about the way Elaine Cortez had looked at her like she was someone worth knowing, and for the first time in 3 weeks, something loosened in her chest. Thank you, she said quietly. For tonight. For all of this. Luca nodded once. This is only the beginning, Miss Vale. The question is, what are you going to do with it? Arya didn't have an answer, not yet. But as she stood there on the terrace, the city lights spreading out below them like fallen stars, she felt something she hadn't felt in weeks. Not hope, exactly, but possibility. Behind them, the ballroom doors opened. A man stepped out onto the terrace, middle-aged and expensively dressed, his face flushed with champagne and confidence. Luca, he called out. There you are. I've been looking everywhere for you. We need to discuss the Meridian deal before... He stopped, noticing Arya for the first time. His eyes widened. Christ, is that Arya Vale? Luca's expression didn't change. It is. I heard she was here with you, but I didn't believe it. The man laughed, loud and careless. No offense, sweetheart, but after what happened with Marcus and your sister, I'm surprised you'd show your face in public at all. That took guts. Arya's stomach dropped. Her face went hot. Richard, Luca said, his voice dropping 20 degrees. Leave! What? I was just... Now. The single word carried so much threat that Richard's smile died instantly. He backed toward the door, hands raised. Sure, yeah, sorry, I'll just... He disappeared back inside. Arya couldn't breathe. The humiliation crashed over her in waves, drowning her all over again. She'd thought tonight would be different, thought she could walk into that ballroom and somehow reclaim herself. But she was still the same broken thing she'd been 3 weeks ago. Still the woman everyone pitied, still the joke. I need to leave, she said. Her voice was barely audible. I need to go home. Arya, please. She looked at Luca, and she knew her eyes were bright with unshed tears. Please just take me home. Luca studied her for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone and sent a single text. The car will be here in 2 minutes. They didn't speak during the drive back. Arya pressed her forehead against the cool window glass and watched the city blur past, hating herself for being weak, for caring what Richard thought, for believing even for a second that one night could erase 3 weeks of humiliation. When the car pulled up to her building, Luca spoke for the first time. What Richard said back there, that wasn't about you. That was about him. Small men make themselves feel bigger by stepping on people who are already down. I know, Arya whispered, but it still hurts. It should. Luca's voice was quiet. If it didn't hurt, you wouldn't be human. But here's what matters. You survived tonight. You walked into that room. You faced Marcus and Caroline. You didn't break. That's what they'll remember. Not Richard's stupidity. You. Arya wiped her eyes roughly. I don't feel very strong right now. Strength isn't about how you feel, Luca said. It's about what you do despite how you feel. You'll understand that eventually. She opened the car door, then paused. Will I see you again? Luca looked at her, and for just a second, his expression softened. Call Elaine Cortez on Monday. Show her your portfolio. And Miss Vale, stop hiding behind that camera. The world needs to see what you can do. Arya nodded, throat tight, and stepped out into the cool night air. She watched the car pull away, watched its taillights disappear around the corner, and then she walked into her building alone. Her apartment felt different when she walked in. Smaller, somehow. Emptier. She kicked off her heels, peeled off the midnight blue dress, and stood in her bathroom in her underwear, staring at her reflection again. She looked the same. Tired. Hollow. Broken. But maybe Luca was right. Maybe strength wasn't about how you looked. Maybe it was about the fact that she was still here, still standing, still trying. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You looked beautiful tonight. E.C. Elaine Cortez. Arya stared at the message for a long time. Then she opened her laptop, pulled up her photography portfolio, the one she'd been building for years but never had the courage to share, and looked at it with new eyes. The photograph stared back at her. Portraits of strangers, street scenes, moments of ordinary beauty captured in harsh light. They were good. Actually good. She'd always known that deep down, but she'd never believed it mattered. Maybe it was time to start believing. She typed out a response to Elaine. Thank you. I'll call your office first thing Monday morning. Then she closed her laptop, climbed into bed, and lay there in the dark, listening to the city sounds filtering through her window. Tomorrow, Marcus would probably call. Caroline would probably show up at her door, crying and apologizing and begging for forgiveness. Her mother would probably try to mediate, to smooth things over, to make everyone pretend nothing had happened. And Arya would have to decide what to do about all of it. But tonight she'd survived. Tonight she'd walked into that ballroom and faced the people who'd buried her, and she hadn't broken. It wasn't much, but it was enough. For now, it was enough. Outside her window, a siren wailed in the distance. A car alarm went off, then stopped. The city breathed and moved and lived, indifferent to her pain, indifferent to her survival. And somewhere in that vast, uncaring darkness, Arya Vale closed her eyes and finally fell asleep. When she woke up Monday morning, everything would change. But she didn't know that yet. Monday morning arrived like a slap to the face. Arya woke up at 6:30 with her heart already racing, her mouth dry, her hands clammy. She'd barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Marcus's face at the gala, saw Caroline's expression crumbling, saw that man Richard laughing at her humiliation like it was entertainment. She forced herself out of bed, showered, made coffee that tasted like dirt, stared at Elaine Cortez's business card on her kitchen counter like it might explode. By 8:15, she'd rewritten the email to Elaine 6 times. By 8:30, she'd deleted all of them. By 9, she was pacing her apartment in circles, phone clutched in her sweating palm, trying to remember how to breathe like a normal human being. Just call her. Just pick up the phone and call her. She dialed before she could stop herself. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Elaine Cortez. The voice was crisp, efficient, no nonsense. Ms. Cortez, this is Arya Vale. We met Saturday night at the Whitmore Gala. You asked me to call about my portfolio. The words tumbled out too fast, too desperate. Arya. Good. I was hoping you'd call today rather than wait until the end of the week like most people do. There was a rustling sound, papers being moved. I have 20 minutes at 11. Can you be at my office by then? Arya looked at the clock. That gave her less than 2 hours. Yes, absolutely. Where a... Chelsea. I'll text you the address. A pause. Bring your portfolio. And Arya, don't bring the safe work. Bring the work that scares you. The line went dead. Arya stood there holding her phone, her entire body shaking. This was real. This was actually happening. Elaine Cortez, the Elaine Cortez who'd launched half the major photographers in the city, wanted to see her work. She opened her laptop with trembling hands and started sorting through her portfolio files. The safe stuff was easy to identify. The editorial work she'd done for small magazines, the wedding photos she'd shot to pay rent, the corporate headshots that paid well but made her want to die inside. Then there was the other work, the real work. The photographs she'd taken at 3 a.m. in empty subway stations. The portraits of homeless veterans she'd spent 6 months documenting. The series on women leaving abusive relationships, their faces raw and terrified and defiant all at once. The images she'd never shown anyone because they were too honest, too brutal, too much like looking directly into someone's open wound. Bring the work that scares you. Arya's hands hovered over the keyboard. These photographs were pieces of herself. Showing them to someone felt like stripping naked in public. But if she didn't do this now, if she let fear win again, she'd spend the rest of her life wondering what might have happened if she'd been brave enough to try. She selected 20 images, uploaded them to her tablet, grabbed her bag and coat, and walked out the door before terror could change her mind. The subway ride to Chelsea took 30 minutes that felt like 30 hours. Arya sat wedged between a businessman who smelled like coffee and a teenager blasting music through headphones, clutching her tablet like it was a life raft. Her reflection in the train window looked pale and hollow, dark circles carved beneath her eyes. You can do this. You can do this. You survived Saturday night. You can survive this. Elaine's office was on the 8th floor of a converted warehouse with exposed brick walls and massive windows overlooking the city. The receptionist, a young woman with geometric glasses and a pierced septum, looked up when Arya walked in. Arya Vale? Yes? She's expecting you. Straight back, last door on the left. Arya's legs felt like water as she walked down the hallway. Framed photographs lined the walls, stunning images from photographers whose names she recognized from magazine mastheads and gallery openings. These were people who'd made it, people whose work mattered. She knocked on Elaine's door. Come in. Elaine sat behind a massive desk covered in photographs, contact sheets, and what looked like layout mock-ups for magazine spreads. She wore black from head to toe, her silver hair pulled back severely, her eyes sharp and assessing behind thin-framed glasses. Sit, Elaine said, not looking up from whatever she was marking with a red pen. Show me what you brought. Arya sat, placed her tablet on the desk, opened the portfolio with fingers that wouldn't stop shaking. Elaine picked up the tablet without ceremony and started scrolling. Her expression gave away nothing. She looked at each image for maybe 10 seconds, then moved to the next. No reaction, no comment, just those sharp eyes moving across the screen, processing, calculating, judging. Arya wanted to throw up. After what felt like an eternity, Elaine set the tablet down. Tell me about this one. She turned the screen toward Arya. It showed a woman in her 50s sitting on a fire escape at sunset, her face half in shadow, a cigarette burning between her fingers. The woman's eyes looked directly into the camera, exhausted, furious, alive. Her name is Rita, Arya said quietly. She left her husband after 30 years, took her daughter and walked out with nothing but the clothes on their backs. I met her at a women's shelter where I was volunteering. She said she felt invisible, like she'd spent 3 decades disappearing. I wanted to show her that she was still there, still real. Elaine nodded slowly. And this one? Another image. A young man with scars running up his forearms, standing in an empty boxing gym, his eyes closed, fists clenched. Marcus. Different Marcus, Arya added quickly. He came back from overseas with PTSD. Boxing was the only thing that made him feel human again. He said violence was the only language his body still understood. You spent time with these people, Elaine said. It wasn't a question. Yes, months, some of them. Why? Arya hesitated. Because I wanted to photograph people who'd survived things that should have destroyed them. I wanted to understand how they kept going. And did you? Understand? No, Arya admitted. But I learned that survival looks different for everyone, and that sometimes just getting out of bed is an act of defiance. Elaine leaned back in her chair, fingers steepled beneath her chin. These are good, Arya. Actually good. Raw, uncomfortable, honest. Most photographers your age are too busy chasing trends to create anything with weight. She paused. But good isn't enough. The question is, can you do it again? Under pressure. On deadline. When someone's breathing down your neck telling you to make it prettier, softer, more marketable. I don't know, Arya said honestly. At least you're honest. Elaine picked up the tablet again, scrolled through the images one more time. I'm putting together a feature for Meridian. It's a new magazine launching next month. High-end editorial focus. The theme is reinvention. Women who rebuilt their lives after losing everything. I need 10 portraits, full interviews, the whole package. It's a 3-week assignment, shoots in New York, pays $15,000 plus expenses. Arya's breath caught. $15,000. That was more than she'd made in 6 months at her last job. I want you for it, Elaine continued, but I need to know you can deliver. Can you? Every rational part of Arya's brain screamed at her to say no. She'd never done editorial work at this level, never worked on a deadline this tight, never been trusted with something this important. But the word that came out of her mouth was, yes. Elaine smiled, a small, sharp expression that looked more like a warning than approval. Good. I'll have contracts sent over this afternoon. You start Friday. Don't make me regret this, Arya. I won't. And Arya, whatever's happening in your personal life, the drama with Marcus Hale and your sister, leave it at home. I don't care about your heartbreak. I care about your work. Understood? Understood. Arya walked out of that office feeling like she'd just survived a car accident. Her hands were shaking so badly she had to lean against the hallway wall to steady herself. She'd done it. She'd actually done it. Elaine Cortez had just handed her the opportunity she'd been clawing toward for years. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Congratulations. I assume Elaine offered you the assignment. Don't fuck it up. L. Luca. Of course he already knew. Arya typed back, how did you... then deleted it. Luca Devereux probably knew everything that happened in this city 5 minutes after it occurred. Instead, she wrote, thank you. His response came immediately. Don't thank me, earn it. She was halfway to the subway when her phone rang. Marcus. She stared at his name on the screen, her stomach twisting into knots. She should let it go to voicemail, should block his number, should do literally anything except answer. She answered. What do you want, Marcus? Jesus, Arya, finally. I've been calling you for 3 days. His voice was strained, exhausted. We need to talk, please. Just give me 5 minutes. I gave you 3 years, Arya said flatly. I don't owe you 5 minutes. I know I fucked up. I know what I did was unforgivable. But please, just let me explain. Explain what? Arya stopped walking. People flowed around her on the sidewalk like water around a stone. Explain how you decided my sister was more interesting than me. Explain how you humiliated me in front of my entire family. Explain how you looked at me across that table and didn't even have the decency to look sorry. It wasn't like that, Marcus said desperately. It just happened. Caroline and I, we didn't mean for it to... Don't! Arya's voice cracked. Don't you dare tell me it just happened. Nothing just happens, Marcus. You made a choice. You both made a choice. And you chose each other over me. Silence on the other end. Then quietly, I know, you're right. I'm sorry. I don't want your apology, Arya said. I want you to leave me alone. Arya, please. I have to go. She hung up before he could say anything else, before the sound of his voice could crack open the fragile composure she'd built over the past 3 days. Her phone immediately started ringing again. Marcus. She declined the call. He called again. Declined. Again. Declined. Finally, a text. I saw you with him. With Luca Devereux. Do you have any idea what kind of man he is? What he's capable of? Arya stared at the message, fury rising hot and bitter in her throat. She typed back. He's the kind of man who treats me like I matter. That's more than you ever did. She blocked his number before he could respond. The subway ride home passed in a blur. Arya sat with her forehead pressed against the cool window, watching the tunnel darkness flash past, trying to steady her breathing. Marcus's voice kept echoing in her head. Just happened. Like she was something that could be discarded accidentally. Like 3 years together meant nothing. When she got back to her apartment, there was someone waiting outside her door. Caroline. Her sister sat on the hallway floor, back against the wall, knees pulled up to her chest. She looked terrible. Makeup smeared, eyes red and swollen, still wearing the same clothes she'd worn to the gala 3 days ago. She looked up when Arya approached, and her face crumpled. Please don't walk away, Caroline said. Her voice was hoarse, broken. Please, Arya, I just need to talk to you. Arya's hand tightened around her keys. How long have you been sitting here? I don't know, a few hours. Since this morning. You need to leave. I can't. Caroline stood up on unsteady legs. Not until you hear me out. Not until you let me apologize. I don't want your apology, Arya said. She unlocked her door, pushed it open. I want you to leave me alone. You and Marcus both. I know what I did was wrong. Caroline followed her into the apartment before Arya could stop her. I know I destroyed everything, but Arya, please, you have to understand. I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Then what did you mean? Arya slammed the door shut, spinning to face her sister. What exactly were you trying to accomplish when you fucked my boyfriend? Caroline flinched like she'd been slapped. It wasn't like that. Marcus and I, we connected. We talked one night after you went to bed, and it just... Don't say it just happened, Arya warned. I just had that conversation with Marcus, and I'm not having it again with you. But it's true. Caroline's voice rose desperately. We didn't plan this. We didn't want to hurt you. It just... She stopped, seeing Arya's expression. We fell for each other. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I can't control how I feel. Arya laughed. It came out harsh and ugly. You're unbelievable. You're actually standing in my apartment trying to make me feel sorry for you because you fell in love with my boyfriend. I'm not trying to make you feel sorry for me. Tears streamed down Caroline's face. I'm trying to explain. Then explain this, Arya said coldly. Explain why you didn't tell me. Explain why you let me sit at that dinner table thinking everything was fine. Explain why you looked me in the eye and smiled while you were planning to steal the man I loved. I was scared, Caroline whispered. I knew it would destroy you. I knew you'd hate me. I wanted to tell you. I swear I did, but I didn't know how. So you did nothing, Arya finished. You let me find out in the worst possible way, in front of everyone. You let me be humiliated because it was easier than being honest. Caroline's face crumpled. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Stop saying that. Arya's voice was shaking now. Stop apologizing like it means something. Sorry doesn't fix this. Sorry doesn't give me back the 3 years I wasted on Marcus. Sorry doesn't erase the fact that my own sister thought so little of me that she... Her voice broke. She pressed her hands against her eyes, trying to hold back tears that were coming anyway. Arya, get out. Please. Get the fuck out of my apartment. Arya's voice cracked like a whip. Get out before I say something we'll both regret. Caroline stood there for a long moment, tears streaming down her face, hands shaking. I love you, she whispered. You're my sister. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did, Arya said quietly. You hurt me worse than anyone else ever has, and I don't know if I can ever forgive you for that. Caroline's face went white. She turned and walked to the door, paused with her hand on the knob. That man you were with. Luca Devereux. Marcus says he's dangerous. He says, I don't care what Marcus says, Arya interrupted. And I don't care what you think. You lost the right to have opinions about my life the second you betrayed me. Caroline opened her mouth like she wanted to say something else, then closed it. She walked out without another word. Arya locked the door behind her, slid down to sit on the floor, and finally let herself cry. Not quiet, dignified tears, ugly, choking sobs that shook her entire body. She cried for the 3 years she'd wasted on Marcus, cried for the sister she'd lost, cried for the family that was never coming back, cried until her throat was raw and her head pounded and there was nothing left inside her except exhaustion. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. Caroline just called me. She says you won't forgive her. Arya, sweetheart, you need to let this go. She's your sister. Family is more important than some boy. Arya read the message 3 times. Then she typed back, some boy? I was with Marcus for 3 years. I thought I was going to marry him. And you're calling him some boy? Her mother's response came quickly. You're being dramatic. Caroline didn't steal him. These things happen. People fall in and out of love. You need to be the bigger person and move past this. Something cold and hard settled in Arya's chest. You want me to be the bigger person? I've been the bigger person my entire life. I've been the quiet daughter, the one who never made waves, the one who always put everyone else first. And where did that get me? Betrayed by my boyfriend and my sister while my own mother tells me to get over it. Arya, that's not fair. No, Mom. What's not fair is that Caroline gets to destroy my life and face 0 consequences. What's not fair is that you're more worried about her feelings than mine. What's not fair is that I'm the one being told to forgive and forget while they get to play happy couple. I'm just trying to keep this family together. Arya's fingers flew across the screen. Maybe this family doesn't deserve to stay together. She blocked her mother's number before she could respond. The apartment felt too small suddenly, too quiet, too full of memories she didn't want anymore. Marcus laughing on her couch, Caroline helping her hang pictures on the walls, family dinners where everyone pretended to get along. She grabbed her camera bag and walked out. The city was gray and cold, the sky heavy with clouds that threatened rain. Arya walked without direction, letting her feet carry her wherever they wanted to go. She ended up in a park she didn't recognize, sitting on a bench watching strangers pass by. A woman pushing a stroller. An old man feeding pigeons. 2 teenagers kissing under a tree, oblivious to the world. She lifted her camera and started shooting. Not the pretty stuff. Not the moments that would look good on Instagram. She photographed the woman's exhausted expression as her child screamed. The old man's gnarled hands shaking as he scattered breadcrumbs. The desperation in the way those teenagers clung to each other, like they were trying to crawl inside each other's skin. She photographed pain disguised as ordinary life. Hours passed. The light changed. Rain started falling in cold, hard drops. Arya kept shooting until her fingers went numb and her camera was soaked and she couldn't tell if the water on her face was rain or tears. Her phone rang. Luca, she answered. Where are you? His voice was sharp, worried. I don't know, a park somewhere. It's pouring. You need to come inside. I'm fine. You're not fine. A pause. Give me your location. Why? Because I'm sending a car to pick you up. I don't need... Arya. His voice softened slightly. You don't have to be strong right now. Let someone help you. She looked down at her hands. They were shaking. Everything was shaking. Okay. 20 minutes later, the Blacktown car pulled up to the curb. The driver opened the door without a word. Arya climbed in, dripping wet, her camera bag clutched against her chest. Luca was waiting inside. He looked at her, really looked at her, and his expression shifted into something almost like concern. You look like hell. Thanks, Arya said flatly. He shrugged off his jacket and draped it around her shoulders. It smelled like expensive cologne and something else, something warmer. What happened? Everything. The word came out broken. Marcus called. Caroline showed up at my apartment. My mother texted me saying I need to forgive them because family is more important than some boy. Like 3 years of my life meant nothing. Luca's jaw tightened. What did you say? I told them all to leave me alone. Blocked their numbers. Probably destroyed what was left of my family. She laughed, but it sounded more like a sob. I'm doing great, in case you were wondering. You're surviving, Luca said quietly. That's more than most people manage. They drove in silence for a while. Arya watched the rain streak down the windows, the city lights blurring into abstract shapes. She felt hollowed out, empty, like something vital had been scooped out of her chest and nothing had been left behind to fill the space. Where are we going? She asked finally. My place. Arya looked at him. Why? Because you're soaking wet, you look like you haven't eaten in days. And if I take you back to your apartment right now, you're going to spend the night staring at the ceiling having a breakdown. He met her eyes. You can have a breakdown at my place instead. At least there's food. Despite everything, Arya almost smiled. That's your sales pitch? I'm not trying to sell you anything, Luca said. I'm trying to stop you from drowning. His apartment was in a building so expensive it probably had its own zip code. The elevator required a key card. The hallway had original artwork on the walls. The door to his penthouse opened onto a space that looked like something out of an architecture magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, minimalist furniture, everything in shades of gray and black and white. It looked like a place where emotions went to die. Guest bathroom is down the hall, Luca said. There's a robe on the door. Leave your wet clothes outside and I'll have them dried. Arya did as she was told, moving on autopilot. The bathroom was all marble and chrome, spotlessly clean, almost clinical. She peeled off her soaked clothes, wrapped herself in a robe that was far too large, and stared at her reflection in the mirror. She looked like a ghost, pale, hollow, like something that used to be human. When she came out, Luca had changed into dark jeans and a black sweater. He was in the kitchen, an enormous space with professional-grade appliances, doing something that involved a frying pan and actual ingredients. You cook? Arya asked. I survive. He didn't look up. Sit. She sat at the counter and watched him work. There was something almost meditative about the way he moved. Precise, controlled, no wasted motion. Like cooking was just another business transaction he needed to execute perfectly. 10 minutes later, he set a plate in front of her. Eggs, toast, bacon. Simple food that smelled better than anything she'd eaten in weeks. Eat, he said. I'm not hungry. I don't care. Eat anyway. Arya picked up her fork. The first bite tasted like sawdust, but she forced herself to swallow. Then another bite. Then another. Somewhere around the third bite, her body remembered it needed food to function, and she started eating in earnest. Luca watched her for a moment, then nodded and started cleaning up. Why are you doing this? Arya asked quietly. Doing what? Doing this. All of this. Helping me, taking me to the gala, getting me the meeting with Elaine, picking me up in the rain. You barely know me. Luca was quiet for a long moment. Then he set down the pan he was washing and turned to face her. Do you remember what I told you about Victoria, my ex-fiancée? She left you 2 weeks before your wedding. She left me because I wasn't paying attention, Luca corrected. I was so focused on building my empire, on proving I was worth something, that I didn't notice she was falling in love with someone else. By the time I realized what was happening, it was too late. He leaned against the counter. After she left, I spent 6 months wanting to destroy myself. I worked 16-hour days, stopped eating, stopped sleeping, stopped being human. And no one stopped me. No one pulled me back. Everyone just let me burn. But you didn't burn, Arya said. No. His eyes were dark, haunted. I turned myself into this instead. Into someone who doesn't need anyone. Someone who can't be hurt because he doesn't let anyone close enough to hurt him. That sounds lonely. It is. He said it simply, like he was stating a fact. But it's safe. And safety matters more than anything else. Arya set down her fork. Then why are you helping me? If you don't let anyone close, why am I here? Luca looked at her for a long time. Because when I saw you at that gallery opening, the one where I bought your photograph, you reminded me of someone. Who? Me, he said quietly. Before I learned to stop feeling, you had this look in your eyes like you were drowning but trying to pretend you could still breathe. And I thought, there's someone who's about to make the same mistakes I did. So you're trying to save me from becoming like you. I'm trying to give you a choice, Luca corrected. You can let what happened destroy you, Or you can let it forge you into something stronger, but either way, it's going to hurt like hell. Arya's throat tightened. I don't know if I'm strong enough. You are. He said it with absolute certainty. You walked into that gala. You faced Marcus and Caroline. You told your family to leave you alone. You took the assignment with Elaine even though it terrifies you. You're already stronger than you think. I don't feel strong. No one does, Luca said. Strength isn't a feeling. It's a decision you make every morning when you get out of bed instead of staying there to die. They stood there in silence, the city lights glittering beyond the windows, two broken people pretending to be whole. I should go, Arya said finally. Stay. The word came out quiet but firm. Guest room is made up. You shouldn't be alone tonight. I'm always alone, Arya said. Not tonight. She didn't have the energy to argue. Luca showed her to a guest room that was almost as big as her entire apartment. Massive bed, more windows, everything pristine and untouched. He left her there with a quiet, sleep well, that sounded more like a command than a wish. Arya lay in the enormous bed wrapped in sheets that probably cost more than her rent and stared at the ceiling. She should feel grateful. She should feel lucky. Luca Devereux, the most powerful man she'd ever met, was going out of his way to help her, but all she felt was empty. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. She almost ignored it, then saw it was from Elaine. Contracts are in your email. Sign them by Wednesday. Your first subject interview is Friday at 9 a.m. Address attached. Don't be late. Arya opened the attachment. The interview was in Brooklyn. A woman named Diana Chen, age 42, former corporate lawyer who'd walked away from a partnership to open a shelter for trafficking survivors. Another woman who'd lost everything and rebuilt from nothing. Arya set her phone down and closed her eyes. Friday. She had 4 days to prepare. 4 days to figure out how to photograph someone else's pain when she could barely survive her own. 4 days before everything changed again. She didn't sleep that night. Just lay there listening to the city breathe beyond the windows, feeling the weight of every decision she'd made pressing down on her chest. Somewhere in the darkness, she heard a door open. Footsteps in the hallway. Then Luca's voice, low and tense, speaking to someone on the phone. I don't care what Marcus Hale is saying about me. Handle it. No, don't threaten him. Just make sure he understands that if he goes near Arya again, he'll regret it. I'm aware of the optics. I don't care, because she matters. That's why. Silence. Then, Victoria has nothing to do with this. This is different. How is it different? Because Arya isn't using me. She's not pretending. She's just... A long pause. She's just trying to survive. And I remember what that feels like. More silence, then footsteps walking away. Arya lay there in the dark, her heart pounding, trying to process what she'd just heard. She matters, because Arya isn't using me. I remember what that feels like. She didn't know what any of it meant, didn't know if Luca was helping her because he genuinely cared, or because she reminded him of his own pain. Didn't know if she should trust him or run as far away as possible. But as she finally drifted towards sleep, one thought kept circling through her exhausted mind. For the first time in 3 weeks, she didn't feel completely alone. And that terrified her more than anything else. Friday arrived faster than Arya expected. She spent the days between in a strange fugue state, signing contracts, researching Diana Chen, testing equipment, trying to prepare for an assignment that felt miles beyond her capabilities. She stayed at Luca's apartment. He never asked her to leave. Never questioned why she kept sleeping in his guest room instead of going home. Just left her space to breathe and occasionally appeared with food or coffee, like he was taking care of a wounded animal that might bolt if approached too quickly. On Thursday night, he found her sitting on his living room floor, surrounded by equipment, her hands shaking as she tried to pack her camera bag for the 100th time. You're going to be fine, he said. You don't know that. I do. He sat down across from her, legs crossed, looking absurdly elegant, even sitting on the floor. You're terrified. That means you care. People who care create better work than people who don't. What if I fail? Then you fail, Luca said simply. But at least you'll have tried. That's more than most people can say. Arya looked at him, really looked at him. In the soft lamplight, he looked less like a ruthless billionaire and more like a tired man carrying too many secrets. Why do you care if I succeed? Because watching someone realize their potential is more satisfying than making money. He stood up, extended his hand. Come on. You need to sleep. Tomorrow's going to be brutal. She let him pull her to her feet. His hand was warm, solid, real. Luca? Yes? Thank you. For everything. He looked at her with those cold gray eyes that somehow didn't feel cold anymore. Don't thank me yet. Wait until you see if you survive what comes next. That should have been a warning. Arya didn't realize how much of a warning until she stood outside Diana Chen's shelter in Brooklyn the next morning, her camera bag over her shoulder, her heart hammering against her ribs. The building was old, converted from a warehouse, with cracked brick walls and windows covered in security bars. A sign above the door read, Haven House in faded letters. Arya checked the address 3 times to make sure she was in the right place. She knocked. The woman who answered the door was small, compact, with short black hair shot through with gray, and eyes that looked like they'd seen too much and somehow kept looking anyway. She wore jeans and a faded sweater, and there was paint under her fingernails. You're Arya, she said. Not a question. Yes. Diana? Come in. Diana stepped aside. Coffee? The interior of the shelter was warm, cluttered, alive. Mismatched furniture, children's drawings taped to walls, the smell of something baking in a kitchen somewhere. Women moved through the space, some young, some older, all carrying the particular tension of people who'd learned not to trust easily. Diana led Arya to a small office crammed with paperwork and photographs. She poured 2 cups of coffee from a pot that looked like it had been brewing since dawn and handed one to Arya. Elaine says you're photographing women who rebuilt their lives after losing everything, Diana said, sitting behind her desk. Is that what you think I did? Arya blinked. Isn't it? Maybe. Diana sipped her coffee. Or maybe I'm still losing things. Maybe rebuilding and losing happen at the same time, and we just call it living. Arya set up her camera with hands that wouldn't quite stop shaking. This was it. This was the moment that would determine if Elaine had made a mistake trusting her. Tell me your story, Arya said. Diana leaned back in her chair. How much time do you have? As long as you need. I was a corporate lawyer, Diana began. Big firm, corner office, 6-figure salary. I was good at it. Ruthless, actually. I'd tear apart opposing counsel and bill $400 an hour doing it. I thought I was successful. She paused. Then I defended a trafficking case. The accused was a wealthy man, pillar of the community, all that bullshit. And I got him acquitted because I was that good at my job. Arya's finger hovered over the shutter button. 6 months later, he was arrested again. Same charges, different victims. Turned out he'd been doing it for years. Diana's voice went flat. I'd put a predator back on the streets because I was more interested in winning than in justice. That's not your fault, Arya said quietly. Isn't it? Diana's eyes met hers. I knew. Deep down, I knew. But I did my job anyway because that's what lawyers do. We don't ask if our clients are guilty. We just defend them. What happened? I quit. Walked away from the partnership. Spent everything I had to open this place. She gestured around the cramped office. Now I defend people who actually need defending. Women who've been trafficked, abused, thrown away by everyone who was supposed to protect them. Arya raised her camera. Diana didn't smile. Didn't perform. Just looked directly into the lens with eyes that were exhausted and furious and somehow still fighting. Arya pressed the shutter. They talked for 3 hours. Diana introduced Arya to some of the women staying at the shelter. Not all of them, because some weren't ready, and Arya respected that. But the ones who agreed to be photographed told stories that broke Arya's heart and put it back together in the same breath. A 19-year-old who'd escaped a trafficking ring and was learning to read. A 40-something mother of 3 rebuilding her life after 15 years of abuse. A woman whose name Arya never learned, who just wanted someone to see her as human again. Arya photographed them all. Not pretty, not inspirational, just real. By the time she left Haven House, the sun was setting and her entire body ached with emotional exhaustion. But when she looked through the images on her camera, she saw something she hadn't seen in her work before. Truth. Raw, uncomfortable, necessary truth. Her phone rang. Elaine. How did it go? I don't know, Arya admitted. I think okay. Maybe? Send me 3 images. Now. Arya's hand shook as she selected 3 portraits and sent them over. The line went quiet. Arya counted her own heartbeats, 47 of them, before Elaine spoke again. These are good, Elaine said. Actually good. This is what I needed. Relief flooded through Arya so intensely she had to sit down on the curb. Really? Don't sound so surprised. I don't give compliments I don't mean. A pause. You have 9 more subjects to photograph. Think you can maintain this quality? Yes. Good. There's something else. Elaine's tone shifted. I'm expanding the project. Instead of 10 portraits, I want 20. And instead of just a magazine feature, I want an exhibition, 3 months from now. Your name on the gallery walls. Arya couldn't breathe. An exhibition? You'll need to work faster, shoot more, push harder. Can you do it? Every rational part of Arya's brain screamed, no. This was too much, too fast, too far beyond anything she'd ever attempted. But she heard herself say, yes. Then get to work. Your next subject is Monday. Details in your email. Elaine hung up. Arya sat on that curb in Brooklyn as the city grew dark around her, staring at her phone, trying to process what had just happened. An exhibition, her name on gallery walls. 3 months to create something that might actually matter. She called Luca without thinking. How did it go? He asked immediately. She's expanding the project, wants an exhibition, 20 portraits instead of 10. Arya's voice was shaking. Luca, I don't know if I can do this. Yes, you can. How do you know? Because a month ago you didn't think you could walk into that gala, Luca said quietly. And you did. Because a week ago you didn't think you could face Marcus and Caroline. And you did. Because today you didn't think you could photograph women you'd never met and capture something real. And you did. A pause. You keep surprising yourself, Arya. Maybe it's time to stop being surprised. Arya closed her eyes. This is terrifying. Good. The best things always are. When she got back to Luca's apartment that night, because somehow his place had become her place and neither of them had acknowledged it, she found him sitting in the dark, staring out at the city lights. You're still up, she said. Couldn't sleep. He didn't turn around. How do you feel? Exhausted, terrified, alive. She sat down beside him on the couch. I don't know what I'm doing. No one does. They sat in silence for a while, watching the city breathe beyond the windows. Luca? The other night, I heard you on the phone. You were talking about me. She hesitated. You said I mattered. He went very still. You weren't supposed to hear that. But I did. Arya turned to look at him. What did you mean? Luca was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, I meant that somewhere between the gala and now, you stopped being a project I was helping with and became someone I actually give a damn about. Arya's breath caught. Why? Because you're real, he said simply. Everyone in my life wants something from me. Money, connections, power. But you just wanted a chance to survive. And watching you fight for that reminded me what it feels like to care about something other than revenge and empire building. I don't know what to do with that, Arya whispered. You don't have to do anything with it. Luca finally looked at her, and his eyes were dark and unguarded in a way she'd never seen. I'm not asking for anything, Arya. I'm just telling you the truth. The truth is complicated. The truth is always complicated. He leaned back, breaking eye contact. But it's better than lying. Arya wanted to say something, wanted to tell him that somewhere in the past month he'd become the only person she actually trusted, that his presence had become the thing keeping her from falling apart, that she didn't know what any of this meant, but she knew it mattered. Instead, she just sat beside him in the dark, and that felt like enough. For now. But 3 days later, everything changed. Arya was at her second interview, a woman named Sarah who'd survived cancer and rebuilt her life as a grief counselor, when her phone started buzzing. Again and again. She ignored it, focused on her work, finished the shoot. When she finally checked, there were 17 missed calls, all from unknown numbers. And one text from Elaine. Call me immediately. Arya called. Have you seen the news? Elaine asked without preamble. No, why? What happened? Someone leaked your project. Every major media outlet in the city is running stories about Arya Vale's comeback, complete with your history with Marcus Hale and speculation about your relationship with Luca Devereux. Arya's stomach dropped. What? It gets worse. Marcus gave an interview. He's claiming Luca is manipulating you, using you for publicity, says you're being taken advantage of by a man known for destroying people. That's not... Arya couldn't breathe. That's not true. I know, but the damage is done. Every gossip site in the city is running with it. They're calling you Luca's revenge project. They're saying you're only getting opportunities because you're sleeping with him. I'm not sleeping with him. Doesn't matter, Elaine said flatly. Perception is reality. And right now the perception is that you're a scorned woman being used by a powerful man. A pause. I need to know. Is any of this true? Is Luca using you? No, Arya said it with absolute certainty. He's helped me, but he's not using me. Then you need to make that clear, publicly, or this story is going to bury everything we've built. Elaine hung up. Arya stood on the street, phone clutched in her shaking hand as everything she'd worked for crumbled around her. She pulled up a news site. The headline made her want to vomit. From humiliation to revenge, Arya Vale's suspicious rise alongside billionaire Luca Devereux. The article was brutal. It detailed her relationship with Marcus, her sister's betrayal, her appearance at the gala with Luca. And then it speculated in carefully worded legal language that Luca was orchestrating her comeback as revenge against Marcus for some unnamed slight. It made her sound like a puppet, like she had no agency, like everything she'd accomplished was just Luca pulling strings. She called him. I know, he said immediately. I'm handling it. How? Arya's voice cracked. How do you handle this? Marcus is telling everyone you're using me. The press is saying I'm only successful because of you. Elaine thinks... She couldn't finish the sentence. Where are you? Brooklyn. Stay there. I'm sending a car. Luca. We'll fix this, he said. And for the first time since she'd met him, he sounded uncertain. I promise. We'll fix this. But when Arya got back to the penthouse an hour later, she found Luca standing in front of his floor-to-ceiling windows, hands clenched into fists, his entire body radiating fury. I should have seen this coming, he said, without turning around. Marcus was always going to retaliate. I just thought... He stopped. You thought what? I thought if I was careful enough, if I protected you enough, he wouldn't be able to touch you. Luca turned, and his face was a mask of cold rage. I was wrong. This isn't your fault, Arya said. Yes, it is. His voice was sharp. Everything Marcus said in that interview, every word about me manipulating you, using you, it's exactly what people expect from me. I've spent 15 years building a reputation as someone who destroys anyone who crosses him, and now that reputation is destroying you. So what do we do? Luca was quiet for a long time. Then, you distance yourself from me, publicly. Do an interview where you say, I was just someone who introduced you to Elaine, that your success has nothing to do with me, that there's nothing between us. Arya stared at him. You want me to lie? I want you to survive. His eyes were dark, haunted. Everything you've worked for, the exhibition, the assignment, your career, it's all at risk because of me. If you cut ties now, you can save it. And what about you? I don't matter. Yes, you do, Arya said fiercely. You matter to me. Something shifted in Luca's expression, surprise maybe, or fear. Arya? No. She stepped closer. You told me a few days ago that I mattered to you. Well, you matter to me too, and I'm not going to throw you away just because Marcus is trying to destroy us both. Us, Luca repeated quietly. There is no us. There can't be. Why not? Because I ruin everything I touch, he said. Victoria left because I was too focused on power. My business partner stole from me because I trusted the wrong person. Everyone who gets close to me ends up destroyed, and I won't do that to you. You're not destroying me, Arya said. You're the only reason I'm still standing. For now. His voice was bitter. But eventually, being near me will cost you everything you've built. And I care about you too much to let that happen. The words hung in the air between them. I care about you too much. Arya's heart was pounding so hard she could barely hear anything else. So what are you saying? Luca looked at her with eyes that held too much pain. I'm saying this was a mistake. All of it. I should never have gotten involved in your life. I should never have taken you to that gala. I should never have... He stopped. Should never have what? I should never have let myself care, he finished quietly. And there it was, the thing neither of them had been willing to say out loud. This had stopped being about revenge or healing or survival somewhere along the way. It had become something else, something real, something terrifying. I don't want to distance myself from you, Arya said. I don't want to pretend you don't matter. Then you're going to lose everything, Luca said. Your career, your reputation, everything Elaine is building for you, all because of me. Maybe that's a price I'm willing to pay. I'm not. His voice was final. I won't let you destroy yourself for me. Arya's chest felt like it was cracking open. So what are you saying? That this is over? That we just walk away from each other? I'm saying you have a choice to make, Luca said. Your career or me. And if you're smart, you'll choose your career. And if I'm not smart? He looked at her for a long moment. Then we both burn. Somewhere in the city below, Arya's phone was probably still buzzing with calls from reporters wanting comments. Marcus was probably celebrating his successful character assassination. Caroline was probably reading the articles and feeling vindicated. But all Arya could think about was the man standing in front of her, this cold, ruthless billionaire who'd somehow become the only person she trusted, telling her to walk away before he destroyed her. I need time, she said finally. I need to think. Luca nodded once. Take all the time you need. But, Arya, he hesitated. Whatever you decide, know that I meant what I said. You matter, more than you should, more than is safe. She left without responding, because there was nothing to say that wouldn't make everything worse. The elevator ride down felt like falling. And when Arya stepped out onto the street, into the cold night air and the glare of city lights, she realized with horrible clarity that she'd just reached the point of no return. She could distance herself from Luca, save her career, prove to everyone that she'd earned her success on her own merit. Or she could stand beside him, risk everything, choose a man who'd warned her over and over that he destroyed everything he touched. Either way, there was no going back. Either way, someone was going to burn. She just had to decide if she was willing to hold the match. Arya didn't go back to Luca's apartment that night. She couldn't. Instead, she walked, blocks and blocks through the cold November air until her feet ached and her lungs burned and the city lights blurred into abstract shapes around her. Her phone kept buzzing in her pocket. Reporters, unknown numbers, people who wanted a statement, a quote, a piece of her humiliation to sell for clicks. She turned it off. By the time she found herself standing outside her own apartment building, the one she hadn't been to in over a week, dawn was breaking gray and cold over the city. The place looked smaller than she remembered, sadder, like something she'd outgrown without meaning to. She climbed the stairs slowly, her camera bag heavy on her shoulder. When she unlocked her door, the apartment smelled stale and unused. Dust had settled on every surface. The plants she'd forgotten to water were brown and dying. It looked like a place where someone used to live. Arya dropped her bag by the door and collapsed onto her couch. She should sleep, should eat, should do any of the normal human things that kept people functional. Instead, she pulled out her laptop and opened the news sites she'd been avoiding. The articles were worse than Elaine had described. Every major outlet had picked up the story. Some framed it as a heartwarming comeback tale poisoned by controversy. Others went straight for the throat, calling her a gold digger, a social climber, a woman trading on her victim status to sleep her way into success. But the worst ones, the ones that made her stomach turn, were the think pieces. The Arya Vale paradox, when female empowerment becomes male manipulation. Is Luca Devereux's mentorship really just another form of control? From one toxic man to another, Arya Vale's pattern of dependence. They tore apart everything. Her photography, her relationship with Marcus, her appearance at the gala. They analyzed her body language in photographs, speculated about her motives, questioned her talent. And through it all, they painted Luca as the puppet master, a cold, calculating man using a broken woman for whatever sick game he was playing. The only mercy was that they didn't have actual proof of anything. No photographs of her and Luca together beyond the gala. No witnesses claiming they'd seen them in compromising positions. Just speculation built on Marcus's carefully worded interview and Luca's reputation for destroying anyone who crossed him. Arya read Marcus's interview 3 times, each word feeling like a knife sliding between her ribs. "I care deeply about Arya," Marcus had said. "We were together for 3 years. I know her better than anyone. And I'm genuinely worried about her right now. Luca Devereux is not the kind of man who helps people out of kindness. He's using her to get back at me for some perceived slight, and she's too hurt and vulnerable to see it. I just want her to be okay. That's all I've ever wanted." The performance was masterful. He sounded concerned, protective, like a man watching his ex-girlfriend drive off a cliff and desperately trying to stop her. He didn't directly accuse Luca of anything specific. He was too smart for that. He just planted seeds of doubt and let the media water them. And it was working. Arya's phone buzzed. She'd turned it back on without thinking. A text from a number she didn't recognize. "You're a whore, and everyone knows it." Then another. "How much did Devereux pay you? Or do you just like old man Dick?" Another. "You're an embarrassment. Your sister dodged a bullet when she took Marcus from you." The messages kept coming, dozens of them. Strangers who'd decided they knew everything about her life, her choices, her worth as a human being. People who felt entitled to tell her she was worthless because she'd had the audacity to survive her humiliation publicly. Arya threw her phone across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor, screen cracked but still glowing with new messages. She pressed her palms against her eyes until she saw stars. This was it. This was what happened when you tried to rebuild. The world didn't celebrate your survival. It dissected it, monetized it, turned it into entertainment for people who'd never had to fight for anything in their lives. A knock at the door made her jump. She considered not answering, but the knock came again, more insistent. "Arya, open the door. I know you're in there." "Elaine." Arya opened the door. Elaine stood in the hallway looking like she'd slept in her clothes, her silver hair disheveled, her face tight with exhaustion. "You look like hell," Elaine said. "Thanks. We need to talk." Elaine pushed past her into the apartment, took one look around at the dust and dead plants, and made a sound of disgust. "When's the last time you were home?" "A week, maybe more." Arya closed the door. "I've been staying at—" She stopped. "At Luca's place," Elaine finished. "I know, everyone knows. That's the problem." Arya's stomach twisted. "There's nothing happening between us." "I believe you." Elaine sat down on the couch without being invited. "But it doesn't matter what's true. It matters what people believe. And right now, every media outlet in the city believes you're sleeping with Luca Devereux in exchange for career opportunities. So what do I do?" "You have 3 options." Elaine ticked them off on her fingers. 1, you do a press conference. You distance yourself from Luca publicly. You say he was just a connection, nothing more. You emphasize that your work speaks for itself. And option 2? You double down. You stand by Luca. You tell everyone they can believe whatever they want, but you know the truth. You risk your entire career on the principle of it. Arya's throat was tight. And 3, you disappear. Elaine's eyes were hard. You walk away from the assignment, the exhibition, all of it. You vanish until the story dies and everyone forgets you existed. Those are all terrible options. Welcome to being a woman in the public eye. Elaine leaned forward. Here's what I can tell you. If you choose option 1, you might salvage your career. The exhibition could still happen. Your work could still be seen, but you'll always wonder if you threw away something real to save your reputation. And if I choose option 2, then you'll probably lose everything, Elaine said flatly. The exhibition will become about you and Luca instead of your work. Every gallery owner in the city will be too scared of the controversy to touch you. You'll be remembered as the woman who destroyed her career for a man. Even though that's not what this is? Especially because that's not what this is, Elaine said. The truth is boring. The scandal is profitable. Arya sat down heavily in the chair across from her. What would you do? I'd choose my career, Elaine said without hesitation. Every time. Because I learned a long time ago that men come and go, but your work is yours forever. She paused. But I'm not you. And I don't know what Luca Devereux means to you. That was the question, wasn't it? What did Luca mean to her? A month ago, he'd been a stranger. 2 weeks ago, he'd been a means to an end. Someone helping her survive. Nothing more. But now, Now he was the person she trusted most in the world, the one who saw her at her worst and didn't flinch, the man who'd given her opportunities but never asked for anything in return, the man who'd told her last night that he cared about her too much to let her destroy herself for him. "I need to think," Arya said. "You have until tomorrow morning." Elaine stood up. "I'm scheduled to release a statement about the exhibition at noon. I need to know if you're in or out by then." She walked to the door, then turned back. "For what it's worth, Arya, your work is extraordinary. Good enough to survive this controversy if you play it right. But only if you decide what matters more, proving yourself to the world, or proving yourself to yourself." After Elaine left, Arya sat alone in her apartment staring at the cracked screen of her phone. The messages had stopped coming. Or maybe they hadn't and she just couldn't see them anymore through the spiderweb of broken glass. She picked up the phone carefully and dialed Luca's number. He answered on the first ring. "Are you okay?" "No." Her voice cracked. "I'm really not." "Where are you?" "Home. My actual home. I'm coming over." "Luca, I'm already in the car." The line went dead. 20 minutes later, there was another knock at her door. Arya opened it to find Luca standing in her hallway looking like he hadn't slept either. His hair was disheveled, his shirt wrinkled, his eyes shadowed with exhaustion. He looked almost human. "You shouldn't be here," Arya said. "If someone sees you, I don't care." He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "Elaine came to see you." "How did you know?" "Because I called her this morning and told her to give you options." He ran a hand through his hair. "I wanted you to have a choice, a real one. The choices are all terrible." "I know." He looked around her apartment, taking in the dust, the dead plants, the evidence of a life abandoned. "You should have stayed at my place." "I couldn't." Arya wrapped her arms around herself. "I needed to think without you there, without your presence influencing every decision I make." Something flashed across Luca's face. Pain, maybe, or understanding. "And what did you decide?" "I don't know yet." She turned away from him, staring out the window at the gray morning light. "Elaine says I should choose my career, that men come and go, but work is forever." "She's right." "You're agreeing with her?" "Yes." Luca's voice was quiet. "You should distance yourself from me. Salvage what you've built. Let your work speak for itself." "And what about you?" "I'll survive," he said. "I always do." Arya turned to face him. "You told me last night that I mattered to you, that you cared too much. Did you mean it?" Luca's jaw tightened. "Yes." "Then how can you stand there and tell me to walk away?" "Because caring about you means wanting what's best for you," he said. "Even if what's best for you is not being associated with me. That's not your decision to make." "No," Luca agreed. "It's yours, so make it." They stood there facing each other across her small apartment. Two people who'd found something real in the wreckage of their separate disasters, now being forced to choose between that reality and everything else. "If I distance myself from you," Arya said slowly, "if I do the press conference and say you were just a connection, just someone who introduced me to Elaine, what happens to us?" "There is no us," Luca said, but his voice was rough, unconvincing. "There can't be." "Why not?" "Because I'm exactly what Marcus said I am," Luca said harshly. "I'm manipulative, controlling. I destroy everything I touch. He's not wrong about that, Arya. I built my entire empire on destroying people who crossed me. That's who I am." "That's not who you've been with me." "Because you're different," he said. "Because with you I wanted to be different, but that doesn't change what I'm capable of." Arya stepped closer. "What are you so afraid of?" "I'm afraid that if you choose me over your career, you'll regret it," Luca said. His voice was raw now, stripped of all the cold control he usually wore like armor. "I'm afraid that 5 years from now, you'll look back and realize I cost you everything you worked for, that you sacrificed your dreams for a man who was never worth it. And I'm afraid that if I choose my career, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering what we could have been," Arya said. "So I guess we're both terrified." Luca looked at her with eyes that held too much pain. "Then choose the fear that comes with success instead of the fear that comes with failure." "Maybe you're worth the failure," Arya whispered. "I'm not." He said it with absolute certainty. "Victoria proved that. My business partner proved that. Everyone who's ever trusted me has learned the same lesson eventually. What lesson? That I'll always choose power over people, Luca said. That's what I do. That's all I know how to do. I don't believe you. You should. He turned toward the door. Make your decision, Arya. Save your career. Let me be the villain in this story. It's what I'm good at. Luca. But he was already gone, the door closing behind him with a soft click that felt like an ending. Arya stood alone in her apartment, surrounded by dust and dying plants and the wreckage of a life she didn't know how to rebuild. Her phone buzzed again, the cracked screen lighting up with another message. This one was from an unknown number, but the words made her blood run cold. Ask Luca about the offshore accounts. Ask him how much Marcus paid him to destroy you. Arya stared at the message until the screen went dark again. Then she picked up her laptop and started searching. 3 hours later, she sat in front of her computer with her hands shaking and her stomach churning with something that felt like betrayal but tasted like truth. The offshore accounts existed. She'd found references to them buried in financial filings, hidden behind layers of shell companies and legal language designed to obscure rather than illuminate. Accounts in Luca's name, accounts that showed a transfer of $5 million from one of Marcus's holding companies 6 weeks ago. 1 week before Luca had called her and invited her to the gala, Arya's vision blurred. She blinked hard, trying to make the numbers on the screen rearrange themselves into something that made sense. But they stayed the same. Cold, factual, damning, $5 million. 1 week before everything changed. Her phone rang, a number she didn't recognize. She answered without thinking. Miss Vale? A woman's voice, crisp and professional. This is Jennifer Marks from City Magazine. I'm working on a story about the relationship between Luca Devereux and Marcus Hale. I was hoping you might comment on recent financial transactions between them. I don't know what you're talking about, Arya said. Her voice sounded far away, like it was coming from someone else's mouth. We have documentation showing that Marcus Hale transferred $5 million to one of Luca Devereux's offshore accounts in early October, Jennifer said. Our sources suggest this payment was related to you, specifically that Marcus paid Luca to humiliate you publicly as revenge for... Arya hung up. She sat there staring at her laptop screen, her entire body numb. This couldn't be real. It couldn't. Luca had helped her, had given her opportunities, had told her she mattered. But $5 million. That was real money. Life-changing money. The kind of money that made people do unthinkable things. The kind of money that could buy a very convincing performance. Arya thought about every moment she'd spent with Luca. Every conversation, every gesture of support. Every time he'd told her she was strong, capable, worth something. Had it all been an act? An elaborate con orchestrated by Marcus to destroy her even more thoroughly than the initial betrayal had? Her phone buzzed. A text from Elaine. Call me, now. Arya called. Tell me you haven't seen the financial documents yet, Elaine said immediately. I've seen them. Fuck. A long pause. Arya, I need you to listen to me very carefully. I don't know what's true and what's not, but what I do know is that those documents are about to go public. Every outlet has them. By tomorrow morning, everyone will be talking about how Marcus paid Luca to humiliate you. Was it true? Arya's voice cracked. Did Marcus pay him? I don't know, Elaine said, but you need to decide how you're going to respond before the story breaks. How do I respond to something like this? You tell the truth, Elaine said. Whatever that truth is, you get ahead of the narrative before it buries you. After Elaine hung up, Arya sat in the growing darkness of her apartment, trying to remember how to breathe. The apartment felt smaller than ever, the walls pressing in, the air too thick to pull into her lungs. She grabbed her coat and camera bag and walked out without knowing where she was going. The city at night was cold and unforgiving. Arya walked until her feet screamed in protest, until her fingers went numb inside her gloves, until she found herself standing outside the building where Luca lived. She stared up at the lit windows of his penthouse. He was up there. Maybe working. Maybe sleeping. Maybe sitting in the dark the way she'd found him that night weeks ago, staring at the city and thinking about people he'd destroyed. Maybe thinking about her. Arya pulled out her phone and called him. Arya? He sounded surprised. Where are you? Outside your building. Her voice was flat, empty. I need to see you. Come up. The elevator ride felt like falling upward. When the doors opened into his penthouse, Luca was waiting. He took one look at her face and went still. What happened? $5 million, Arya said. All the color drained from Luca's face. Fuck! So it's true. She felt something crack inside her chest. Marcus paid you $5 million. And then you called me and took me to that gala and introduced me to Elaine, and... She couldn't finish the sentence. It's not what you think, Luca said. Then tell me what it is. Arya's voice rose. Tell me what $5 million from Marcus Hale bought. Was it my humiliation? My trust? My... She stopped, the word catching in her throat. Tell me the truth, Luca. For once in your life, tell me the actual truth. Luca was quiet for a long moment. Then, Marcus came to me 6 weeks ago. He was worried about you. Arya laughed. It sounded hysterical. Worried about me? He said you'd stopped dating, stopped leaving your apartment, that you'd quit your job and cut off all your friends. He said he was afraid you were going to... Luca stopped. Going to what? Hurt yourself, Luca finished quietly. He said he'd betrayed you and destroyed you, and he couldn't live with the guilt if something happened to you because of it. So he paid you $5 million to do what? Save me? He paid me to get you out of your apartment, Luca said, to give you a reason to keep going. He knew you'd never accept help from him directly, so he came to me. Why you? Because he knew I'd understand, Luca said. Because he knew I'd been where you were. And because he offered me $5 million to make sure you survived. Arya felt like she was going to be sick. So everything, the gala, Elaine, the assignment, all of it, was bought and paid for by Marcus? No. Luca's voice was firm. Marcus paid me to get you to the gala. That's all. Everything else, Elaine, the exhibition, your work, that's yours. I introduced you, but Elaine doesn't give opportunities to people unless they deserve them. Your talent is what got you that assignment, not Marcus's money. But you took his money, Arya said. You took $5 million to manipulate me. Yes. The simple admission was worse than any excuse could have been. Arya's vision blurred. Why? Why would you do that? Because $5 million is $5 million, Luca said. And because at the time you were just another transaction, another business deal. And now? Arya's voice broke. What am I now? Luca looked at her with eyes full of something that looked like anguish. Now you're the biggest mistake I've ever made. Mistake? Because I wasn't supposed to care, Luca said roughly. I was supposed to get you to the gala, introduce you to Elaine, and walk away. That was the deal. But then I saw you at that event, saw how brave you were, how strong, and I couldn't walk away. I kept finding excuses to stay involved, kept telling myself I was just making sure you were okay. But the truth is, somewhere between the gala and now, you stopped being a job and became... He stopped. Became what? Became someone I can't stop thinking about, Luca said. Became the first person in 15 years who makes me want to be better than I am. Became the one thing Marcus's money couldn't buy. Arya's hands were shaking so badly she had to clench them into fists. I don't know what to believe anymore. Believe this, Luca said. He stepped closer, his eyes locked on hers. I took Marcus's money. I'm not proud of it, but I took it. And yes, everything that happened started because of that transaction. But what I feel for you, what you've become to me, that has nothing to do with money, that's real. How do I know that? Arya's voice cracked. How do I know any of this is real when it all started with a lie? Because I'm standing here telling you the truth, even though I know it's going to destroy us, Luca said. I could have lied. I could have denied everything. But I'm not going to lie to you anymore, Arya. You deserve better than that. I deserved better than this, Arya said. I deserved to know from the beginning that you were being paid to help me. I deserved to make my own choices without being manipulated by two men who thought they knew what was best for me. You're right. Luca's voice was quiet. You did. Arya turned away, pressing her hands against her eyes. Everything she'd built over the past month, every moment of progress, every small victory, had been constructed on a foundation of lies and manipulation. Marcus had paid Luca to save her because he couldn't live with the guilt of destroying her. And Luca had accepted the payment because that's what he did. He was a businessman. Everything was a transaction, even her. I need to leave, she said. Arya, no. She spun back to face him. You told me weeks ago that you destroy everything you touch. I should have listened. I should have walked away then. But I didn't because I was stupid enough to believe that maybe her voice broke. It doesn't matter. I'm walking away now. Where will you go? I don't know. Arya moved toward the elevator. Anywhere but here. The story breaks tomorrow morning, Luca said. Every media outlet is going to run with it. They're going to say I manipulated you, that Marcus paid me to destroy you as revenge. You need to be prepared. I'm done being prepared, Arya said. I'm done trying to control the narrative. Let them say whatever they want. Let them think whatever they want. I'm finished. What about the exhibition? What about it? Arya's laugh was bitter. You think anyone's going to take my work seriously now? You think Elaine is going to want anything to do with a photographer whose entire career was orchestrated by two men playing games with her life? Your work is good enough to survive this, Luca said. Maybe. Arya pressed the elevator button. But I'm not sure I am. The elevator doors opened. She stepped inside, then turned back to look at Luca one last time. He stood in the doorway to his penthouse, looking like a man watching something precious slip through his fingers, which was almost funny because that's exactly what was happening. For what it's worth, Luca said quietly, I meant everything I said to you. Every word. The only lie was how it started. Everything else was real. The problem is I'll never know for sure, Arya said, and I can't build a life on maybes and possibilities. The elevator doors closed. Arya rode down in silence, her reflection staring back at her from the polished metal walls. A woman who'd survived betrayal only to walk straight into another one. A woman who'd thought she was being saved when she was really just being managed. A woman who'd been stupid enough to fall for a man who'd admitted from the beginning that he destroyed everything he touched. When she stepped out onto the street, the cold air hit her like a slap. Her phone was buzzing again. More messages, more calls. The story was probably already breaking. By tomorrow morning, everyone would know that her entire comeback had been purchased by the man who destroyed her in the first place. The irony was almost poetic. Arya walked until she found herself back at her apartment. She climbed the stairs slowly, unlocked her door, and stood in the darkness looking at the life she'd abandoned. Then she pulled out her laptop and opened her email to Elaine. I'm out, she typed. Cancel the exhibition. Cancel everything. I can't do this anymore. Her finger hovered over the send button. One click, and it would all be over. No more fighting, no more trying to prove herself, no more struggling against a world that seemed determined to destroy her no matter what she did. One click, and she could disappear. Let the story consume her. Let Marcus and Luca and everyone else fight over the wreckage while she vanished into obscurity. It would be so easy. Arya's phone rang. She answered without looking at who was calling. Miss Vale? A man's voice, unfamiliar. This is Detective James Morrison with NYPD Financial Crimes Division. I need to speak with you about Luca Devereux and Marcus Hale. Arya's blood went cold. Why? Because we have reason to believe that the $5 million payment was part of a larger scheme, Detective Morrison said. We think Marcus Hale has been using offshore accounts to launder money for years. The payment to Devereux might have been a way to legitimize illegal funds by making it look like a business transaction. Arya couldn't breathe. What does that have to do with me? You were the justification for the payment, Morrison said, which means you might be considered an accessory. We need you to come in for questioning. I didn't know anything about— I'm sure you didn't, Morrison interrupted. But we still need your statement. Can you come to the station tomorrow morning? Yes, I'll be there. After Morrison hung up, Arya sat in the darkness of her apartment trying to process what she'd just heard. Marcus had used her. Luca had used her. And now the police thought she might be part of some elaborate money laundering scheme. This was it. The absolute bottom. There was nowhere left to fall. Her laptop screen was still open, her unsent email to Elaine glowing in the darkness. I'm out. Cancel the exhibition. Cancel everything. Arya read the words again. Then she deleted them. And she started typing something else. I'm not walking away. Whatever happens next, I'm going to finish what I started. I'll deal with the fallout, but I won't let them make me disappear. The exhibition is still happening. My work still matters. I still matter. She hit send before she could change her mind. Then she opened a new email and typed in Luca's address. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. I don't know if what we had was real or just another transaction in your endless collection. But I know this, I'm not giving up. I'm not letting Marcus or you or anyone else decide what my life becomes. I'm going to finish this assignment. I'm going to create the exhibition. I'm going to prove that my work matters, regardless of how it started. And after that, I never want to see you again. She sent that too. Then she turned off her laptop, lay down on her couch in the darkness, and stared at the ceiling until dawn broke gray and cold through her windows. Tomorrow, the story would break. Tomorrow, the world would know that her entire comeback had been orchestrated by two men playing games with her destruction. Tomorrow, she'd have to face police questioning, media scrutiny, and the complete annihilation of everything she'd tried to build. But tonight she'd made a decision. She wasn't going to disappear. She wasn't going to let them win. She was going to survive this, even if it killed her. Even if she had to become someone completely different to do it. The woman who'd walked into the Whitmore Gala beside Luca Devereux was gone. The woman who'd believed in second chances and redemption and the possibility that broken people could be made whole, she was gone too. What remained was something harder, colder, something forged in betrayal and tempered by rage, something that knew exactly how to weaponize pain. Arya Vale was done being the victim in other people's stories. It was time to write her own ending, and she didn't care who burned in the process. The story broke at 6:17 in the morning. Arya knew the exact time because she was awake, had been awake all night, staring at her phone as the first headline appeared on City Magazine's website like a bomb detonating in slow motion. The $5 million redemption. How Marcus Hale paid Luca Devereux to save his ex-girlfriend. Within minutes, every outlet had picked it up. Twitter exploded. Instagram flooded with screenshots. Cable news networks scrambled to book experts who could analyze the ethics of purchased redemption and billionaire manipulation tactics. By 7 a.m., Arya's phone had 32 missed calls and 97 text messages. She ignored all of them except one. Detective Morrison, station, 9 a.m. Don't be late. Arya showered in water so hot it turned her skin red, dressed in black jeans and a sweater that felt like armor, and walked out of her apartment into the cold November morning with her camera bag over her shoulder and rage burning so hot in her chest she thought it might consume her from the inside out. The police station smelled like coffee and disinfectant and institutional despair. Detective Morrison was a tired-looking man in his 50s with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much of humanity's worst. He led Arya to an interrogation room that was exactly like every cop show had promised. Concrete walls, metal table, chairs bolted to the floor. "You're not under arrest," Morrison said as he sat down across from her, "but you are a person of interest in an ongoing investigation into financial crimes committed by Marcus Hale." "I didn't know anything about money laundering," Arya said. Her voice was flat, empty. "I didn't even know about the $5 million until yesterday." "I believe you." Morrison pulled out a file folder thick with documents. "But Marcus Hale has been moving money through offshore accounts for 3 years. We think he's been using various shell companies and fake transactions to legitimize funds from illegal sources. The payment to Luca Devereux fits the pattern." "What pattern?" "Large payments justified by personal relationships or business deals that don't quite make sense." Morrison slid a document across the table. "Marcus paid Devereux $5 million for what exactly? To take you to a party? To introduce you to a gallery owner? That's not a business transaction. That's a gift. And gifts that large trigger investigations." Arya stared at the document. Numbers, account transfers, legal jargon she didn't understand. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to tell me everything Marcus Hale said to you in the weeks before and after that payment was made," Morrison said. "Every conversation, every text message, anything that might indicate he was using you as cover for illegal activity." "He didn't tell me anything." Arya's hands were shaking. She pressed them flat against the table. "We barely spoke after the dinner. He called a few times, sent messages, but I didn't answer." "What about Luca Devereux?" "What about him? Did he ever indicate that the payment from Marcus was anything other than what he claimed?" Morrison leaned forward. "Did he ever suggest you keep quiet about something? Did he ever ask you to lie?" "No." Arya met Morrison's eyes. "Luca told me the truth, eventually. He took Marcus's money to get me to that gala. That's all I know." Morrison studied her for a long moment. You care about him. Devereux. That's not relevant to your investigation. It's relevant to whether you're telling me the whole truth, Morrison said. People lie to protect the people they care about. So I need to know. Are you protecting Luca Devereux? Arya thought about last night. Thought about Luca's face when he'd admitted he'd taken Marcus's money. Thought about the way he'd looked at her, like he was watching something precious slip away and couldn't do anything to stop it. I'm not protecting anyone, she said. I'm just trying to survive. Morrison held her gaze for another moment, then nodded. Okay. If that changes, if you remember anything else, call me. He slid a business card across the table. And Miss Vale? Be careful. Men like Marcus Hale and Luca Devereux don't play small games. Whatever's happening here, it's bigger than you think. Arya took the card and walked out. The morning air was cold and sharp, scraping against her lungs with every breath. Her phone was vibrating constantly in her pocket. She pulled it out and scrolled through the notifications with numb fingers. 17 missed calls from unknown numbers. 32 text messages. All of them from reporters, vultures circling the wreckage of her life trying to pick whatever meat was left off the bones. And one email from Elaine. My office. Now. Arya took the subway to Chelsea. Sat wedged between commuters who were all staring at their phones, probably reading about her humiliation, probably forming opinions about her choices and her worth as a human being. She kept her eyes down, her camera bag clutched against her chest like a shield. When she walked into Elaine's office, she found 3 people waiting. Elaine, a lawyer in an expensive suit, and a woman Arya didn't recognize with severe features and a challet in her hands. Sit, Elaine said. Arya sat. This is Rebecca Chen, my publicist, Elaine gestured to the unknown woman. And this is David Park, the magazine's legal counsel. We have a situation. I'm aware, Arya said. Are you? Rebecca's voice was sharp. Because from where I'm sitting, this situation is about to destroy not just your career, but Elaine's reputation and the magazine's credibility. We need to contain this, fast. How? David pulled out his own set of documents. We release a statement. You say you had no knowledge of the financial arrangement between Marcus Hale and Luca Devereux. You emphasize that your work speaks for itself. You distance yourself from both men publicly and completely. And then what? And then we hope it's enough to salvage the exhibition, Elaine said. Her voice was cold, professional. The gallery is considering pulling out. 3 of your scheduled interview subjects have canceled. 2 major sponsors are threatening to withdraw funding. This story is toxic, Arya, and right now you're the source of the toxicity. Something cold settled in Arya's chest. So you're cutting me loose. We're trying to save you, Rebecca said, but you need to cooperate. You need to do exactly what we tell you to do. Which is? Press conference, today, 3 p.m. Rebecca was already typing on her tablet. You read a prepared statement. You don't take questions. You walk away. Clean, simple, controlled. Arya looked at the 3 of them, these people who'd been ready to launch her career 48 hours ago, now scrambling to distance themselves from the fallout. And if I don't, then the exhibition is canceled, Elaine said flatly. The assignment is terminated, and you're finished before you ever really started. I need to see the statement first. David handed her a printed page. Arya read it slowly, each word feeling like a small betrayal. I had no knowledge of any financial arrangement between Marcus Hale and Luca Devereux. I was never informed that Mr. Hale had made any payments related to my career opportunities. I am shocked and devastated to learn that my professional relationships may have been influenced by transactions I knew nothing about. I want to be clear. My work stands on its own merit. I have earned every opportunity through talent and dedication. I am grateful to those who have supported my career, but I will no longer be associated with either Mr. Hale or Mr. Devereux in any capacity. I ask for privacy as I move forward with my work. It was perfect, professional, carefully worded to protect her while throwing both Marcus and Luca under the bus. It was also a complete lie. I can't read this, Arya said. You have to, Rebecca said. It's the only way to save your career. My career was built on photographing truth, Arya said. I'm not going to start it by lying. Then what do you suggest? Elaine's voice was ice. Arya set the statement down. I tell the actual truth. I say yes. Marcus paid Luca to help me. Yes, I was manipulated. But the work I've created since then is mine. The photographs are mine, the vision is mine, and I'm not going to let anyone, not Marcus, not Luca, not you, take that away from me." "That's career suicide," Rebecca said. "Maybe," Arya agreed, "but at least it's honest." Elaine leaned back in her chair, studying Arya with those sharp raptor eyes. "You understand what you're risking. The exhibition might not survive this. Your name might be permanently associated with scandal instead of art." "I understand. And you're willing to accept that." "I'm willing to fight for it," Arya corrected. "There's a difference." Elaine was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked at David and Rebecca. "Give us the room." They left, casting worried glances back at Arya as they went. When the door closed, Elaine stood up and walked to the window, staring out at the city. "You remind me of myself 20 years ago. Stubborn, principled, willing to burn everything down rather than compromise." "Is that a compliment?" "It's an observation." Elaine turned back. "I burned a lot of bridges being principled, lost a lot of opportunities, spent years in the wilderness because I refused to play the game." She paused. "But I also built something that mattered, something that was mine." "Are you saying I should do the press conference?" "I'm saying you need to decide what you're willing to sacrifice," Elaine said. "If you tell the truth, the whole truth, you'll lose the safe path, the easy path, the path where galleries welcome you and magazines feature you and everyone pretends the scandal never happened. But you might build something better, something real. Or I might build nothing at all. That's the risk." Elaine came back to the table. "Here's what I can offer you. I'll support whatever decision you make. If you want to read the prepared statement, fine, we'll manage the fallout. If you want to tell your truth, I'll give you the platform. But either way, the exhibition happens. Your work deserves to be seen." Arya's throat tightened. "Why are you doing this?" "Because your photographs are some of the best work I've seen in a decade," Elaine said simply. "And because I'm tired of watching talented women destroy themselves trying to survive in a world built to crush them. So choose, Arya. Safety or truth? But choose fast. The press conference is in 4 hours." Arya walked out of Elaine's office with her mind racing and her hands shaking. 4 hours. She had 4 hours to decide whether to protect herself or blow everything up. Her phone rang. "Luca," she answered. "Don't do the press conference," he said immediately. "Whatever they're asking you to say, don't." "How did you know?" "Because I know how damage control works," Luca said. "They're going to ask you to throw me under the bus, to say I manipulated you and I deserve it. I did manipulate you. But if you do that press conference, if you read their prepared statement, you'll always wonder if you could have done it differently." "What should I do instead?" "Tell the truth," Luca said. "All of it. Yes, Marcus paid me. Yes, I took the money. Yes, the whole thing started as a transaction. But your work, what you've created, that's yours. Don't let them take that away from you by making you hide behind a safe narrative." "That's easy for you to say," Arya said. "You're not the one whose career is on the line." "My reputation is being destroyed right alongside yours," Luca said. "Every outlet is calling me a manipulator, a predator, someone who preys on vulnerable women. They're probably right, but I'm not going to let you sacrifice your integrity to protect me." "I'm not trying to protect you." "Then what are you trying to do?" Arya stopped walking. She was standing on a corner in Chelsea, people flowing around her like water around a stone, and she realized she didn't have an answer. What was she trying to do? Survive? Succeed? Prove something? "I don't know," she admitted. "Then figure it out," Luca said quietly. "Because in 4 hours, you're going to stand in front of cameras and define yourself. And whatever you say, that's who you'll be forever. So decide. Do you want to be the woman who played it safe, or the woman who told the truth even when it cost her everything?" He hung up. Arya stood there on the corner, phone pressed against her ear, trying to remember how to breathe. Around her, the city moved and breathed and lived, indifferent to her crisis, indifferent to her pain. She looked down at her camera bag, reached inside, pulled out her camera, and turned it on. The screen lit up with her most recent photographs. Diana Chen at Haven House. Sarah, the cancer survivor. The women she'd interviewed and photographed over the past 2 weeks. Women who'd survived things that should have destroyed them, who'd rebuilt their lives from rubble and ash. Women who told the truth about their pain instead of hiding it. Arya scrolled through the images slowly. Each face stared back at her, exhausted, furious, alive. Real. That's what her work was. Reality. Truth. The brutal, uncomfortable honesty of survival. And she was about to stand in front of cameras and lie about it. She put her camera away, pulled out her phone, and called Elaine. "I'm not doing the press conference," Arya said. "What are you going to do instead?" "I'm going to finish the assignment," Arya said. "All 20 portraits. I'm going to create the exhibition, and I'm going to let the work speak for itself. The media is going to crucify you." "Let them." Arya's voice was steady. "I'm done trying to control the narrative. I'm done trying to make everyone comfortable with my survival. I'm just going to survive. And if that's not enough for people, that's their problem." Elaine was quiet for a moment. Then, "Okay. But Arya, once you make this choice, there's no going back. Are you sure?" "No," Arya said honestly. "But I'm doing it anyway." She hung up and started walking. She didn't know where she was going until she found herself standing outside Marcus's office building, a glass and steel tower in Midtown that screamed wealth and power and everything Marcus had always valued more than her. She walked into the lobby. The security guard looked up. "I'm here to see Marcus Hale," Arya said. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but tell him Arya Vale is here. He'll see me." The guard made a call, spoke quietly, then looked at her with something like surprise. 32nd floor. He's waiting." The elevator ride up felt like preparing for war. Arya watched the numbers climb, 20, 25, 30, and felt her pulse hammering in her throat. She hadn't seen Marcus since the gala, hadn't spoken to him since she'd blocked his number, hadn't let herself think about what she'd say if she ever faced him again. Now she was about to find out. The elevator doors opened onto a reception area that looked like a furniture catalog come to life. Marcus's assistant, a young woman with perfect hair and a practiced smile, gestured toward a glass-walled office at the end of the hall. "He's expecting you." Arya walked down the hall. Through the glass, she could see Marcus sitting behind his desk, phone pressed to his ear. He looked up as she approached. His expression shifted through surprise, concern, something that might have been fear. He ended his call and stood as she entered. "Arya." His voice was careful, controlled. "I didn't think you'd ever want to see me again." "I don't," Arya said. She closed the door behind her. "But I needed to look you in the eye when I asked you this. Why?" "Why what?" "Why did you pay Luca $5 million to help me?" Her voice was sharp as broken glass. "Was it guilt? Was it pity? Was it some fucked up way of controlling me, even after you destroyed me?" Marcus's face went pale. I wasn't trying to control you." "Then what were you trying to do?" He sat down heavily. "I was trying to make sure you didn't kill yourself." The words hit like a physical blow. Arya's vision blurred. "What?" "2 weeks after the dinner, your mother called me," Marcus said. His voice was rough. "She said you'd stopped leaving your apartment, stopped eating, that she was worried about you, really worried, and I—" He stopped, pressing his hands against his eyes. "I knew it was my fault. I knew I'd destroyed you, and I couldn't live with that. So you hired Luca to fix me." "I hired Luca to give you a reason to keep going," Marcus corrected. He'd been through something similar. "I thought if anyone could understand what you were feeling, it was him." "You thought throwing money at the problem would make it go away," Arya said flatly. "I thought getting you out of that apartment might save your life," Marcus shot back. "And I was right, wasn't I? You went to the gala. You met Elaine. You got the assignment. Your work is being recognized. You're building a career. So yes, I paid Luca to help you. And I'd do it again." "You don't get to take credit for my survival," Arya said. Her voice was shaking now. "You don't get to destroy me and then claim you saved me. That's not how this works." "I'm not claiming anything," Marcus said. "I'm just telling you the truth. I fucked up. I hurt you. And I spent every day since then trying to figure out how to fix it." "You can't fix it." Arya stepped closer to his desk. "You can't pay someone to undo betrayal. You can't purchase redemption. All you did was add another layer of manipulation to an already fucked up situation." "I know." Marcus's voice cracked. "I know, and I'm sorry. I don't want your apology." Arya leaned forward, hands pressed flat against his desk. "I want you to answer one question honestly. Did you love me? Ever?" Marcus looked at her with eyes full of something that might have been genuine pain. Yes, for a long time. And Caroline? I love her too. He said it simply. I know that doesn't make sense. I know it doesn't excuse what I did, but I fell in love with both of you. And I made a choice that destroyed everything. You made a choice that destroyed me, Arya corrected. Caroline got what she wanted. You got what you wanted. I got humiliation and trauma and a lifetime of trust issues. I know. Do you? Arya's voice rose. Do you understand what it's like to have the person you trusted most in the world choose your sister over you? To sit at that dinner table and watch everyone choose her happiness over your dignity? No, Marcus admitted. I don't. But I've spent every day since then living with the guilt of it. Good, Arya said. I hope it destroys you the way you destroyed me. She turned toward the door. Arya, wait. Marcus stood up. The police came to see me this morning. They're investigating the payment to Luca. They think I was laundering money. Were you? No. He said it firmly. That payment was exactly what I said it was. I was trying to help you, but they don't believe me. They think it was a cover for something illegal. And if they press charges, he stopped. You might be dragged into it, as a witness, maybe more. I already talked to them, Arya said. I told them the truth, that I didn't know anything about the payment until after the fact. Did they believe you? I don't know, Arya said, and I don't care. I'm done letting other people's choices determine my life. Whatever happens next, I'll deal with it. But I'm done being your victim. I'm done being Luca's project. I'm done being anyone's anything except my own. She opened the door. For what it's worth, Marcus said quietly, your photographs are incredible. You were always talented. I never made space for you to show it. That's on me. Arya looked back at him one last time. He looked smaller than she remembered, diminished, like a man who'd lost something valuable and was only now realizing what it had been worth. You're right, she said. That is on you. She walked out. The rest of the day passed in a blur of phone calls and decisions and small acts of defiance. Arya went back to her apartment, unplugged her phone, and spent 6 hours editing photographs until her eyes burned and her back ached. She organized her portfolio, refined her artist statement, prepared for the exhibition like it was the only thing that mattered. Because it was. At 8 p.m., her door buzzer rang. She ignored it. It rang again. Then her actual door, someone pounding hard enough to rattle the frame. Arya, open the door. I know you're in there. Caroline. Arya considered not answering, considered calling the police and having her sister removed, considered 1,000 different ways to avoid this confrontation. Instead, she opened the door. Caroline looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, her eyes red and swollen, her clothes rumpled. She looked like someone who'd been crying for days straight. I need to talk to you, Caroline said. No. Please, Arya, just 5 minutes. I gave you 5 minutes last time, Arya said. You wasted them apologizing for something you weren't actually sorry for. I'm not making that mistake again. I'm sorry, Caroline said desperately. I've been sorry every day since that dinner. I hate what I did to you. I hate what it's done to our family. I hate... Her voice broke. I hate that you look at me like I'm a stranger. You are a stranger, Arya said. The sister I knew would never have betrayed me like that. So whoever you are now, I don't know you. That's not fair. Fair? Arya laughed harshly. You want to talk about fair? You took the man I loved. You destroyed my relationship with our parents. You made me the villain in our family for refusing to forgive you. And now you're standing in my hallway telling me I'm being unfair? I didn't mean for any of that to happen. Yes, you did. Arya stepped closer. You meant every second of it. You saw something you wanted and you took it without caring who you hurt. That's who you are, Caroline. That's who you've always been. I was just too stupid to see it. Caroline's face crumpled. I love him. I know you don't believe me, but I actually love Marcus. It wasn't just about taking him from you. That's supposed to make it better? Arya asked. That you fell in love with my boyfriend while we were still together? That you built a relationship on the rubble of mine? I don't know what you want from me. Caroline's voice rose to a shout. I've apologized. I've tried to make it right. What else am I supposed to do? Nothing, Arya said quietly. There's nothing you can do. What you did, what you took from me, can't be fixed with apologies or time or anything else. It's just gone. And so are we. So that's it? Tears streamed down Caroline's face. We're just never going to be sisters again? We stopped being sisters the night you betrayed me, Arya said. Everything since then has just been me accepting that reality. I can't accept that. Caroline's voice cracked. You're my sister. I need you. You need absolution, Arya interrupted. You need me to tell you it's okay, that I forgive you, that we can all move past this and be a family again. But I can't give you that because it's not okay, and I don't forgive you, and we're never going to be a family again. Caroline stared at her, mascara running down her face, hands shaking. Mom was right about you. You've gotten hard, cold. You're not the same person anymore. You're right, Arya said. I'm not. The person I was died at that dinner table. What's left is someone who knows exactly what she's worth, and it's more than your forgiveness. She closed the door before Caroline could respond, locked it, leaned against it, listening to her sister sob in the hallway. After a long time, the sobbing stopped. Footsteps retreated. Arya was alone again. She should have felt victorious, powerful, like she'd finally stood up for herself in a way that mattered. Instead, she just felt empty. Her phone, still off, sat on the kitchen counter. She turned it on. The screen lit up with notifications. Most of them were noise, but one was from Elaine. Gallery confirmed. Exhibition opens in 6 weeks. November 15th. Get back to work. 6 weeks. Arya had 6 weeks to photograph 8 more subjects, edit everything, prepare artist statements, and create an exhibition that would either launch her career or bury it forever. 6 weeks to prove that her work mattered more than the scandal. 6 weeks to survive. She pulled out her laptop and opened her calendar, started scheduling interviews, researching subjects, planning shoots, lost herself in logistics until the numbness receded and something like purpose took its place. At midnight, her phone rang. Luca. She answered without thinking. I saw the news, he said. You didn't do the press conference, no? Why not? Because I'm done lying to make other people comfortable, Arya said. I'm done being manageable. I'm done being safe. What are you going to be instead? Honest, Arya said. Even if it costs me everything. Luca was quiet for a moment. I'm sorry. For all of it. For taking Marcus's money. For not telling you from the beginning. For... He stopped. For making you think you couldn't trust your own judgment. I forgive you, Arya said. The words surprised her. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. I don't know if we can be whatever we were starting to be. But I forgive you. Why? Because holding on to anger takes energy I don't have, Arya said. And because you gave me something Marcus never did. You saw me. Actually saw me. Not the version of me that was convenient or easy or comfortable. The real me. And that matters more than the money. Arya, I need to go, she said. I have 8 more interviews to schedule and 6 weeks to pull off a miracle. But Luca, thank you. For everything. Even the parts I hate. She hung up before he could respond. Then she sat at her kitchen table surrounded by photographs and schedules and the wreckage of her old life. And she started building something new. Over the next 5 weeks, Arya worked harder than she'd ever worked in her life. She photographed women in Brooklyn shelters and Manhattan penthouses, in hospital rooms and art studios, in kitchens and offices and spaces carved out of survival. She documented stories of abuse survived, cancer beaten, addiction overcome, lives rebuilt from absolute zero. She photographed truth in every form it took. The media coverage never stopped. Every week brought new headlines, new speculation, new think pieces analyzing her choices and questioning her motives. Marcus's investigation intensified. The police seized records, interviewed witnesses, built a case that might or might not lead to charges. Caroline sent flowers, then letters, then nothing. Luca sent a single text 2 weeks before the exhibition. I'll be there. If you want me to stay away, tell me now. Arya didn't respond. The week before the opening, Elaine called her to the gallery. Arya walked into the space, a converted warehouse in Brooklyn with white walls and perfect lighting, and stopped breathing. Her photographs covered the walls. 20 portraits, each one 6 feet tall, each one capturing a moment of survival so raw and honest it hurt to look at directly. The women stared out from the frames, exhausted, furious, defiant, alive. They looked like warriors. They looked like her. "This is extraordinary," Elaine said quietly. She stood beside Arya, staring at the walls. "This is the best work I've seen in years, maybe decades." Arya couldn't speak. Her throat was too tight. "The opening is in 3 days," Elaine continued. "Every major critic in the city will be there. The press will be there. Marcus and Caroline will probably be there. Luca will definitely be there. It's going to be chaos." "I know. Are you ready?" Arya looked at the photographs, at the faces of women who'd survived everything life had thrown at them and kept going anyway. Women who'd refused to let their pain define them even when the world insisted it should. Women who looked exactly like what she'd become. "Yes," Arya said. "I'm ready." The night before the opening, Arya sat alone in her apartment going through her camera one last time, reviewing every image, every moment she'd captured over the past 6 weeks. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "You ruined everything. I hope you're happy." Marcus? Caroline? Some random stranger who felt entitled to an opinion? It didn't matter. Arya deleted the message and turned off her phone. Tomorrow night, every person who'd hurt her, used her, betrayed her, or tried to destroy her would walk into that gallery. They'd see her work. They'd see what she'd built from the ashes of her humiliation. And they'd have to acknowledge that she'd survived. More than survived. She'd transformed. Arya looked at her reflection in the darkened window. The woman staring back at her looked nothing like the broken thing who'd walked into the Whitmore Gala 6 weeks ago. This woman was harder, sharper. Someone forged in fire and tempered by rage. Someone who knew exactly what she was worth. Tomorrow, the world would find out if they agreed. And if they didn't? Arya smiled at her reflection, a cold, sharp expression that held no warmth. If they didn't, she'd burn it all down and build something new from the ashes. Because that's what survivors did. They endured. And they never, ever let anyone forget what it cost them. The exhibition opened at 7 p.m. on November 15th, and by 6:30, the line stretched around the block. Arya stood inside this gallery watching through the window as people gathered. Critics, collectors, journalists, curious onlookers drawn by the scandal. She wore black, a simple dress that felt like armor, and her hands were steady as she adjusted the placement of one final photograph. Elaine appeared at her elbow. "It's time. Are you ready?" Arya took one last look at the gallery walls, covered in her work, in the faces of women who'd survived everything. "Yes," she said. The doors opened, and the world walked in to see what Arya Vale had become. The gallery filled faster than Arya expected. Bodies pressed together in the white space, voices rising and falling like waves, the air thick with perfume and wine, and the electric tension of people who'd come to witness either a triumph or a spectacular failure. Arya stood near the back wall, partially hidden behind one of her own photographs, watching the crowd examine her work with faces that gave nothing away. Critics stood in front of portraits for long minutes, arms crossed, expressions neutral. Collectors whispered to each other, gesturing at the images with careful hands. Journalists took notes, their phones out, already crafting the narratives they'd publish tomorrow. And through the glass doors, Arya saw them arrive. Marcus came first, Caroline on his arm. They moved through the crowd like royalty, beautiful and polished and completely aware that every eye in the room tracked their entrance. Caroline wore white, of course she did, and Marcus looked exactly like the man who destroyed Arya 6 months ago, confident, handsome, untouchable. Arya's mother came next, alone. Her face tight with the kind of tension that came from being forced to choose between daughters and choosing the wrong one. She looked older than Arya remembered, smaller, like guilt had worn her down from the inside. And then Luca walked in. He moved through the crowd differently than Marcus. No performance, no awareness of the attention he commanded. He just walked, hands in his pockets, his eyes scanning the gallery until they found Arya standing against the back wall. Their gazes locked across the room. Arya felt her breath catch. 6 weeks. It had been 6 weeks since she'd stood in his penthouse and told him she couldn't trust him anymore. 6 weeks since he'd admitted he'd taken Marcus's money. 6 weeks of silence between them, while she'd built this exhibition from rage and survival, and something that felt dangerously close to hope. Luca started moving toward her. The crowd parted automatically, people stepping aside without realizing they were doing it. Marcus noticed. His head turned, following Luca's path, and his expression hardened when he saw where Luca was going. Arya. Luca stopped a few feet away, close enough to speak without the crowd overhearing. The work is extraordinary. Thank you. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. Can we talk? Here? Somewhere private. Arya glanced at the crowd. Elaine was working the room, introducing collectors to critics, managing the chaos with practiced efficiency. No one was looking at them. No one except Marcus, whose eyes were burning holes through Luca's back. 5 minutes, Arya said. She led Luca through a door at the back of the gallery into a small office that smelled like paint and coffee. The moment the door closed, the noise from the exhibition became muffled, distant. They stood facing each other in the cramped space, and Arya realized she didn't know what to say. I'm sorry, Luca said before she could speak. I've practiced that 1,000 times over the past 6 weeks, and it still sounds inadequate. But I need you to know, I'm sorry. For the money, for the manipulation, for making you doubt yourself. I know, Arya said quietly. Do you forgive me? Arya thought about that. Forgiveness. Such a small word for such a massive concept. I don't know yet. Ask me again in a year. Luca almost smiled. Fair enough. He looked past her at the door, at the muffled sounds of the exhibition beyond. Marcus is here. With Caroline. I know. Are you going to talk to them? Probably. Arya leaned against the desk. They'll want to congratulate me or apologize again or do whatever makes them feel less guilty, and I'll let them because I'm tired of running from them. You're not running, Luca said. You haven't been running for weeks now. No, Arya agreed. I've been building. And what you've built is remarkable. Luca stepped closer. Not touching, just present. I meant what I said 6 weeks ago. About caring about you mattering. None of that was part of Marcus's transaction. That was real. I know that too, Arya said. But knowing something and trusting it are different things. So where does that leave us? Arya met his eyes. I don't know. Maybe nowhere. Maybe somewhere eventually, but right now I need to get through tonight, and I need to do it without worrying about what you need from me. I don't need anything from you, Luca said. I just wanted you to know I'm here, if you need me. Before Arya could respond, the office door opened. Elaine stuck her head in, her expression sharp. Arya, the Times critic wants to talk to you, and Marcus Hale is asking when you'll be available for a conversation. Tell the critic I'll be out in 2 minutes, Arya said, and tell Marcus I'll find him when I'm ready. Elaine nodded and disappeared. Luca looked at her. Are you ready? No, Arya said honestly, but I'm doing it anyway. They walked back into the gallery together. The crowd had grown. The space was packed now, bodies pressed together, conversations overlapping. Arya felt every eye turned toward her as she emerged from the back office, felt the weight of speculation and judgment pressing down like a physical thing. The Times critic was a severe woman in her 60s named Margaret Chen, who'd made or destroyed careers with a single review. She stood in front of the portrait of Diana Chen from Haven House, studying it with an expression Arya couldn't read. Miss Vale? Margaret said without looking away from the photograph. Tell me about this one. Her name is Diana, Arya said. She was a corporate lawyer who quit after realizing she'd helped a predator go free. Now she runs a shelter for trafficking survivors. And this expression on her face, this exhaustion mixed with fury that was intentional? That's who she is, Arya said. I didn't create it. I just captured it. Margaret finally turned to look at her. Most photographers at your age try to make their subjects beautiful, palatable. You've done the opposite. These women look like they've been through war. They have, Arya said. Different kinds of war, but war nonetheless. And you? Margaret's eyes were sharp. Have you been through war? Arya thought about the past 6 months, the betrayal, the humiliation, the scandal, the way she'd been torn apart and rebuilt into something harder. Yes. Good, Margaret said. Your work shows it. That's why it's powerful. You're not an observer. You're a survivor photographing survivors. That authenticity is what makes this exhibition worth seeing. She paused. I'll have my review in tomorrow's paper, but I can tell you now, this is career-making work. Don't waste it. She walked away before Arya could respond. Elaine appeared at her elbow. What did she say? She said it's powerful. Arya's voice was unsteady. She said it's career-making. I told you. Elaine squeezed her shoulder once, a rare gesture of affection. Now go deal with Marcus before he makes a scene. Arya found Marcus standing in front of the portrait of Rita, the woman who'd left her husband after 30 years. He was alone. Caroline had drifted away to examine other photographs, and he looked smaller than Arya remembered, diminished by the weight of his own choices. Arya, he said when she approached. Congratulations. It's incredible. Thank you. Can we talk privately? Arya gestured toward a quieter corner of the gallery. They walked there in silence, the crowd parting around them. When they stopped, Marcus looked at her with eyes that held something between guilt and longing. I've been following the coverage, he said. The reviews, the interviews, everyone's talking about you, about your work. That's the point of an exhibition, Arya said. I mean, they're talking about you the way I should have talked about you, Marcus said. His voice cracked slightly. Like you matter, like your talent matters. I never did that. I never made space for you to be... He gestured at the gallery walls. This. And I'm sorry. I know you are, Arya said. You've been sorry for months. But Marcus, your guilt doesn't change what you did. It doesn't give me back the 3 years I spent thinking you saw me when you were really just tolerating me until something better came along. That's not fair. It's completely fair. Arya's voice was calm, steady. You chose Caroline. Not because you loved her more, but because she was easier, more exciting, less complicated. And I spent months thinking that meant something was wrong with me, that I wasn't enough. You were always enough, Marcus said desperately. I was the one who wasn't... Stop. Arya held up a hand. Don't do that. Don't try to make this about your inadequacy. You made a choice. You hurt me, and now you have to live with that. But I don't have to keep carrying it for you. Marcus stared at her. So what are you saying? I'm saying I forgive you, Arya said. The words surprised her, but once they were out, she realized they were true. Not because you deserve it. Not because what you did was okay. But because holding on to that anger was destroying me more than it was hurting you. So I'm letting it go. Arya. But forgiveness doesn't mean we're friends, Arya continued. It doesn't mean I want you in my life. It just means I'm done letting what you did define who I am. Marcus's face crumpled. I miss you. I miss what we had. We didn't have anything, Arya said quietly. We had a relationship built on me being smaller so you could feel bigger, and I'm done being small. She walked away before he could respond. Her hands were shaking, but her breathing was steady. She'd done it. She'd faced Marcus and survived. More than survived. She'd taken her power back. Caroline found her near the entrance. Her sister looked pale, her white dress almost gray under the gallery lights. Arya, can we talk? Here? Please. Arya followed her outside. The November air was cold and sharp, biting through her thin dress. Caroline wrapped her arms around herself, shivering. I'm not going to apologize again, Caroline said. You've made it clear my apologies don't mean anything to you. That's true, Arya said. So instead I'm going to tell you something else. Caroline looked at her directly for the first time in months. I hate what I did to you. I hate what I became. I hate that every time I look at Marcus, I see your face at that dinner table. I hate that I destroyed our family for a relationship that's already falling apart. Arya's breath caught. What? Marcus and I are barely speaking, Caroline said. Her voice was flat, empty. We're together because we're too stubborn to admit we made a mistake. But the truth is, what we have isn't worth what I destroyed to get it. Then why stay? Because if I leave, it means I threw away my relationship with you for nothing, Caroline said. It means I'm the villain in our story, and I don't even get a happy ending. You are the villain, Arya said. That doesn't change just because you're unhappy. I know. Caroline's voice broke. I know. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life knowing that the worst thing I ever did was betray the person who loved me most. But Arya, she stopped, tears streaming down her face. I miss my sister. I miss you. And I don't know how to live in a world where you hate me. Arya looked at her sister, this woman who'd been her closest friend for 20 years before becoming her greatest betrayer. I don't hate you, I just don't know who you are anymore. And I don't know if I want to find out. So that's it? Caroline's voice was desperate. We're just never going to be sisters again? I don't know, Arya said honestly. Maybe someday, maybe never. But right now I need to focus on myself, on my work, on becoming someone I can respect. And I can't do that while carrying your guilt for you. Caroline nodded slowly. Your work is beautiful, really beautiful. I'm proud of you. Thank you, Arya said. And she meant it, because despite everything, there was a part of her that still remembered loving this person, still remembered being sisters. But that was then. This was now. Caroline walked back inside. Arya stood alone in the cold, watching her breath condense in the November air. She felt lighter somehow, like setting down burdens she'd been carrying for so long she'd forgotten what it felt like to stand up straight. That looked hard. Arya turned. Her mother stood a few feet away, wrapped in an expensive coat, her face lined with exhaustion. It was, Arya said. I'm sorry. Her mother's voice was quiet. For everything, for pressuring you to forgive them, for making you feel like your pain mattered less than keeping the family together, for... She stopped. For failing to protect you. You did fail, Arya said. When I needed you most, you chose Caroline's happiness over my dignity. That hurt worse than what they did. I know. Her mother stepped closer. I told myself I was trying to keep the peace. But the truth is I was taking the path of least resistance. Caroline was vocal about her pain. You were quiet. So I dealt with the squeaky wheel and ignored the one suffering in silence. I wasn't silent, Arya said. I was screaming. You just weren't listening. You're right. Her mother's eyes were bright with unshed tears. And I don't know how to make that right. I don't know if I can. But I need you to know I see you now. I see what you've become. And I'm proud of you. Are you? Arya's voice was sharp. Or are you proud of me because other people are celebrating my work? Would you still be proud if the exhibition was a failure? Her mother was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. And I hate that I have to think about it. At least you're honest, Arya said. I love you, her mother said. I know I haven't shown it well. I know I've hurt you, but you're my daughter and I love you. I love you too, Arya said. But love isn't enough. Not when it comes with conditions. Not when it requires me to be smaller so everyone else can be comfortable. What do you need from me? Space, Arya said. Time. The freedom to build a life that doesn't revolve around making you happy. And maybe, eventually, a relationship where you see me as someone worthy of protection instead of someone who should always be understanding. Her mother nodded. Okay, I can do that. She walked back inside, leaving Arya alone in the cold. The gallery doors opened and closed behind her, letting out bursts of conversation and warm air. Arya stood there for a moment longer, feeling the cold bite into her skin, grounding herself in physical sensation. Then Luca stepped outside. Everyone wants a piece of you tonight, he said. Apparently, Arya pulled her arms tighter around herself. What do you want? To know if you're okay. I don't know, Arya said honestly. I just forgave 3 people who destroyed me. I should feel better, but I just feel empty. Forgiveness doesn't fill the holes, Luca said quietly. It just stops the bleeding. The actual healing takes longer. How much longer? However long it takes. He moved closer, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. For me, it took years. But you're stronger than I was. You might heal faster, or I might never heal at all, Arya said. I might just become good at pretending I'm okay. That's a type of healing too, Luca said. Fake it until it's real. That's what I did. Arya looked at him. Are you real now? Or are you still pretending? Luca was quiet for a long time. Then, with you, I'm real. That's the problem. That's why this is so hard. What's hard? Watching you become someone who doesn't need me anymore, Luca said. His voice was raw. 6 weeks ago, you needed help, protection, someone to open doors. Now you're opening them yourself. And he stopped. I'm trying to figure out what I am to you now that you don't need saving. Maybe you're someone who understands, Arya said. Maybe you're someone who's been where I am and survived it. Maybe that's enough. Is it? I don't know. Arya turned to face him fully. 6 weeks ago, I thought I was falling for you, but I don't know if what I felt was real or just gratitude disguised as attraction, and I need to figure that out without you influencing the answer. So what are you saying? I'm saying I need time, Arya said. I need to build this career, this life, this version of myself that doesn't exist in relation to anyone else, and I need to do it alone. How much time? As much as it takes. Arya met his eyes. And when I'm done, if you're still interested, we can figure out what this is. But until then, I need you to let me go. Pain flashed across Luca's face. I can do that. Can you? I have to, Luca said, because the alternative is holding on too tight and destroying what we might become. He stepped back, creating distance between them. I'll be here. Whenever you're ready. If you're ever ready. And if I'm never ready, then I'll have spent however long watching someone I care about become the person she was always meant to be, Luca said. That's not the worst thing I could do with my life. He walked back inside before Arya could respond. She stood alone in the cold for another moment, then followed him. The rest of the night passed in a blur. Critics congratulated her. Collectors asked about purchasing prints. Journalists wanted interviews. Elaine appeared at her elbow every few minutes with another introduction, another opportunity, another door opening. And through it all, Arya felt herself floating above the chaos, watching from a distance as her life changed in real time. By midnight, the gallery was finally empty. The last guests had left, the caterers had cleaned up, and Arya stood alone among her photographs in the silent space. She walked slowly along the walls, looking at each portrait, each face that had trusted her to capture their pain and transform it into something beautiful. Women who'd survived everything. Women who looked like her now. Elaine appeared from the office, coat over her arm. I'm heading out. You should too. Get some sleep. Tomorrow the real work begins. What's the real work? Figuring out what comes next, Elaine said. You've proven you can survive trauma and create art from it. Now you have to prove you can build a sustainable career. That's harder than one successful exhibition. I know. Good. Elaine paused at the door. For what it's worth, Arya, I'm proud of you. Not just for the work, for everything. You could have let them destroy you. Instead, you destroyed their power over you. That takes strength most people don't have. After Elaine left, Arya stood alone in the gallery for a long time. She pulled out her camera, the same one she'd carried through every interview, every shoot, every moment of the past 6 weeks, and photographed the empty space, the white walls, the portraits illuminated by gallery lights, the evidence of survival hanging in silent testament. Then she turned off the lights and locked the door behind her. Outside, the city was cold and alive, streets still busy even at this late hour. Arya started walking. She didn't know where she was going until she found herself back at her apartment building, the one she'd barely visited over the past months, the one that had felt like a coffin during her darkest days. She climbed the stairs slowly, unlocked her door, and stepped inside. The apartment looked different. Or maybe she was different. The dust was gone. She'd cleaned weeks ago during a fit of manic energy. The dead plants had been replaced. The space felt less like a tomb and more like a place where someone actually lived. Arya walked to her window and looked out at the city. Somewhere out there, Marcus was probably lying awake wondering if he'd made the right choice. Caroline was probably staring at the ceiling realizing what she'd sacrificed. Her mother was probably worrying about how to rebuild a relationship she had damaged through neglect. And Luca was probably sitting in his penthouse, staring at the city lights, thinking about a woman who'd become strong enough to walk away from him. Arya's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Saw the exhibition. Your work is everything. Proud of you. Rita. Then another. The portrait you took of me changed my life. Thank you. Diana. Then another and another. Women she'd photographed over the past 6 weeks, reaching out to tell her what her work had meant to them. Arya read each message carefully, feeling something warm and unexpected bloom in her chest. This was what mattered. Not the critics or the collectors or the scandal. These women. Their stories. The way her work had given them space to be seen. She set her phone down and pulled out her laptop, opened her email. Found the one from Elaine that had arrived that afternoon while she'd been too busy to read it. 3 galleries want to talk about future shows. 5 magazines want assignments. 2 publishers want to discuss a photography book. Welcome to the beginning, Arya. Try not to fuck it up. Arya smiled, a real smile, not the practiced one she'd been wearing all night. This was it. This was what she'd been fighting for. Not redemption, not revenge, just the opportunity to do work that mattered. She opened a new document and started writing. Notes for future projects, ideas for exhibitions, women she wanted to photograph, stories she wanted to tell. Hours passed. Dawn broke gray and cold through her window. Arya kept writing, kept planning, kept building the future she'd almost given up on 6 months ago. At some point, she fell asleep at her laptop, her head pillowed on her arms, her dreams filled with faces and stories and the click of her camera shutter. When she woke up, it was afternoon. Her phone was buzzing with messages. More reviews had dropped, all of them positive, some of them glowing. The Times review called her work a masterclass in documentary portraiture. Another critic compared her to Diane Arbus and Sally Mann in the same sentence. Arya read them all, feeling strangely detached. The praise was nice. The validation was nice. But it didn't change who she was. Didn't change what she'd survived to get here. She showered, made coffee, and opened her laptop again. Started responding to emails, scheduling meetings, planning the next 6 months of her life. 3 weeks later, Arya stood in Elaine's office going over contracts for her first photography book. The exhibition had been extended by popular demand. It would run for another month before traveling to galleries in Los Angeles and San Francisco. Magazine assignments kept coming. Her calendar was booked solid for the next 6 months. "You're handling this well," Elaine said, watching her review the contracts with careful attention. "Most photographers get one successful show and completely lose their minds. You're acting like this is just the beginning." "It is just the beginning," Arya said. "This exhibition was about survival. The next one needs to be about something else." "Like what?" "I don't know yet," Arya admitted, "but I'll figure it out." After the meeting, Arya walked through the city without purpose. She ended up in the park where she'd photographed strangers that day, months ago, when her life had been falling apart. She sat on the same bench, pulled out her camera, and started shooting. A woman pushing a stroller, her face exhausted but content. An old man feeding pigeons with gentle hands. 2 teenagers laughing together, their faces bright with the kind of joy that came from not yet knowing how badly life could hurt. Ordinary life. Beautiful in its mundanity. Her phone rang. "Luca." She answered. "How are you?" he asked. "Good. Busy. The book deal is moving forward." "I saw. Congratulations." "Thank you." Arya watched a child chase pigeons across the path. "How are you?" Luca paused. "I'm learning how to be okay with missing you." Arya's chest tightened. "Luca." "I'm not telling you this to pressure you," he said quickly. "I'm just being honest. You asked me to let you go. I'm trying, but I wanted you to know that when you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'll still be here." "I know," Arya said quietly, "and I appreciate that, but I need more time. I need to know who I am when I'm not defined by trauma or survival or any man's perception of me." "I understand." "Do you?" "Yes," Luca said, "because that's what I had to do after Victoria. Figure out who I was when I wasn't busy destroying people or building empires. It took years. It might take you less time. It might take more. But however long it takes, I'll wait." "Why?" "Because you're the first person in 15 years who made me want to be better than I am," Luca said. "That's worth waiting for." After they hung up, Arya sat on the bench for a long time, her camera in her lap, the city moving around her. She thought about Marcus and Caroline, probably still together, probably still miserable. She thought about her mother trying to rebuild bridges she'd burned. She thought about Luca, sitting alone in his penthouse, learning how to be patient. And she thought about herself. About the woman she'd been 6 months ago, broken, humiliated, barely surviving. And the woman she was now, strong, successful, building a life that mattered. They were the same person. They were completely different people. Both were true. Arya stood up, stretched, and started walking. She didn't have anywhere to be. No meetings, no shoots, no obligations, except to herself. She walked until the sun started setting, until the city lights began flickering on one by one, until she found herself standing outside a small gallery in Brooklyn she'd never noticed before. The sign said they were hosting an open mic night for artists: photography, poetry, music, anything. Arya looked at her camera, looked at the gallery, made a decision. She walked inside. The space was packed with people, young, old, all different types, sitting on the floor, leaning against walls, waiting for their turn to share. Arya found a spot near the back and sat down. For the next 2 hours, she watched strangers share their work. Some of it was good, some of it was terrible, all of it was honest. And when the host asked if anyone else wanted to share, Arya found herself raising her hand. She walked to the front of the room with her camera, connected it to the projector, and showed 10 photographs she'd never shared before. Images from the past 6 months that were too personal, too raw, too close to her own pain to display publicly. A self-portrait taken the morning after Marcus's betrayal, her face swollen from crying. A photograph of the empty chair at her family's dinner table where she used to sit. An image of Luca's penthouse at night, the city lights reflected in the windows like stars. Pictures that told the story she'd been living while photographing other people's survival. When she finished, the room was silent. Then someone started clapping. Then someone else. Then everyone. Arya stood in front of these strangers, feeling more exposed than she'd felt at her own exhibition, and realized something profound. This was healing. Not the praise, not the success. This. Sharing her truth with people who had no stake in it except human connection. Afterward, a young woman approached her, maybe 22, with bright eyes and nervous hands. "Your work is incredible. Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "How did you survive it? Whatever happened to you? How did you keep going?" Arya looked at this young woman who was clearly surviving something of her own. "I didn't have a choice. Survival isn't something you choose. It's something you do because the alternative is giving up, and I wasn't ready to give up." "What if you don't know how to survive?" "Then you just get through today," Arya said, "and then tomorrow, and then the next day. And eventually you look back and realize you've been surviving all along." The young woman's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you." After everyone left, Arya walked home through the cold November night. The city felt different, or maybe she felt different in it. Less like a place that had witnessed her destruction, and more like a place where she was building something new. When she got back to her apartment, she made tea, opened her laptop, and started writing. Not notes for future projects, not emails to galleries or magazines. A letter to her younger self. The one who'd sat at that dinner table 6 months ago and watched her world end. The one who'd thought she'd never survive the humiliation. Dear Arya, right now, you think this is the end. You think Marcus choosing Caroline destroyed you. You think the humiliation is permanent. You think you'll never be okay again. You're right about some of that. You won't be the same. The woman you were, the one who made herself smaller so other people could feel bigger, she's gone. She died at that dinner table. But what comes after isn't worse. It's different, harder, more painful, but also stronger, more real, more yours. You'll build a career from the wreckage. You'll photograph women who remind you of yourself. You'll stand in galleries and watch strangers connect with your work. You'll realize that your pain had a purpose. It taught you empathy, taught you to see other people's survival because you recognized it in yourself. You'll forgive people who don't deserve it because holding on to anger takes energy you need for other things. You'll learn that forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It just means you're done letting them take up space in your head rent-free. You'll meet someone who sees you, actually sees you, and you'll walk away from him because being seen isn't enough if you don't know who you are first. Maybe you'll go back to him eventually. Maybe you won't. Either way, you'll survive, because that's what you do now. You survive. Not because you're special, not because you're strong, but because you woke up this morning and decided not to die. And then you did it again tomorrow, and the next day, and every day after that. That's all survival is. Just deciding to keep going even when everything hurts. So keep going. You're worth it. Love, the woman you become. Arya saved the letter, then closed her laptop. She walked to her window and looked out at the city one more time. Somewhere out there, people were falling in love and falling apart. Being betrayed and being saved. Ending and beginning. And she was part of all of it. Not special, not unique, just another person trying to build a life from whatever pieces she had left. That was enough. She turned off the lights and went to bed. Tomorrow she had a meeting with a publisher. Next week she was photographing a domestic violence survivor who'd rebuilt her life. Next month she was flying to Los Angeles for her exhibition opening. She had work to do, a life to build, a future to create from the ashes of her past. And for the first time in 6 months, when Arya closed her eyes, she didn't see Marcus's face or Caroline's betrayal or her mother's disappointment. She saw her own reflection, stronger, harder, scarred, but not broken. Untouchable. Not because no one could hurt her, anyone could hurt anyone if they tried hard enough, but because she'd already survived the worst thing she could imagine. And she was still here, still breathing, still creating, still becoming. Whatever came next, she'd survive that too. She always did.